everyone for our first Mahajana College OSA Toronto, Canada workshop for selecting high school courses and choices. My name is Saranga.
And my name is Shankar, and we are the youth coordinators for this workshop. We're really excited to have all of you here to learn and understand more about entering high school.
So this workshop is going to provide you an opportunity to hear some insightful presentations from our guest speakers and some personal experiences from former students during the time when transitioning from grade 7 to 8 to high school. So we also have the opportunity to have a Q&A period where you're able to ask as many questions as you like in Tamil or in English. Also, to stimulate participation, we're also providing candy to students that are willing to ask questions as well. Furthermore, we'd like to call up the president, Prayalan, to say a few words about our workshop today.
Good morning, everyone. First of all, I would like to thank everyone being here with us today on live and then present here. தமிழில் 2 வார்த்தை. அனைவருக்கும் இனிய காலை வணக்கங்கள். இன்று எங்கள் மகாஜனா கல்லூரி பழைய மாணவர் சங்கம் டொரண்டோ கனடாவின் இளையோர் சங்கத்தால் ஏற்பாடு செய்யப்பட்டுள்ள இந்த ஒர்க் ஷாப்புக்கு வருகை தந்துள்ள உங்களை வருக வருக என வரவேற்று இங்கு மேடையில் அமைந்துள்ள எங்கள் டிடிஎஸ்பி ட்ரஸ்டி பாத்தி கந்தவேல் மற்றும் காண்டிபன் கணேசலிங்கம் பிரின்சிபல் மார்க்கம் டிஸ்ட்ரிக்ட் ஹை ஸ்கூல் வாசுகி மூர்த்தி வைஸ் பிரின்சிபல் ஓக் ரிட்ஜ் யூனியன் பப்ளிக் ஸ்கூல் மற்றும் எல்லோருக்கும் மற்றும் எங்கள் சங்க உறுப்பினர்கள் காப்பாளர்கள் அனைவரையும் வருக என வரவேற்று இவ் நிகழ்ச்சியை சிறம்பட நடத்தி தருமாறு தாழ்மையுடன் கேட்டு விடைபெறுகின்றேன். நன்றி, வணக்கம்.
Thank you, Mr. Prayalan. We'd like to also call up our patron, Mr. Nandiswarar, to say a few words.
எல்லோருக்கும் வணக்கம். முக்கியமாக தம்பி பாத்தி, காண்டிபன் மற்றும் வாசி மற்றும் பிரியாளன் மற்றும் இங்கு கூடியிருக்கும் பெரியோர்கள், பிள்ளைகள் எல்லோருக்கும் எனது அன்பார்ந்த காலை வணக்கம். மகாஜனா கல்லூரி உண்மையாக நான் மகாஜனா கல்லூரியில் 1959ஆம் ஆண்டு தொடக்கம் 68ஆம் ஆண்டு மட்டும் படித்தேன். 1969ஆம் ஆண்டு பிரித்தனியா யூனிவர்சிட்டி போய் 74ஆம் ஆண்டு என்ஜினியராக வளர்த்துட்டு யாழ்ப்பாணத்தில் டிஸ்ட்ரிக்ட் என்ஜினியராக இருந்தேன். அண்ட் அந்த ஜெஃப்னா கேம்பஸ் கட்டிடங்கள் எல்லாம் அந்த காலத்தில் நாங்கள் தான் செய்தோம். அதன் பிறகு அங்கே நாட்டு நிலைமைகளால் மலேசியாவுக்கு போய் மலேசியாவிலேருந்து கூக்காயிலேருந்து போய் கனடாவுக்கு 1992 வந்தோம். வந்தவா தொடக்கம் மகாஜனா கல்லூரி பழைய மாணவர் சங்கத்தோடு இணையப்பட்டு நாங்கள் பல சேவைகள் செய்து கொண்டு வரோம். அதாவது 2006-2007 நான் பிரசிடெண்ட்டாக இருக்கும் பொழுது பழைய மாணவர்களோடு சேர்ந்து இங்குள்ள தமிழ் மாணவர்களுக்கு கணிதம் பொது அறிவு போட்டிகளை வச்சு தொடக்கினாங்கள். அன்று முதல் இன்று வரை அந்த வருஷம் அந்த நிகழ்ச்சியை நாங்கள் எங்கள் மாணவர்களின் முன்னேற்றத்துக்காக செய்து வருகின்றோம். 2020 தம்பி பாத்தி கண்டவேல் மற்ற அணுவாக்களை நாங்கள் இன்வைட் பண்ணாங்க. எங்கள்கிட்ட கொண்டஸ்ட்டை வந்து பேருங்கொண்டு அன்று தான் இவரோட கலைச்சம் இப்படி ஒரு டிடிஎஸ்பி ஒர்க் ஷாப் கொண்டு நாங்கள் செய்தால் என்ன பிள்ளைகளுக்கு பிரயோசனமாக இருக்கும். அப்போ அதன் அடிப்படையில் அவர் பல முயற்சிகள் எடுத்து எல்லோரையும் ஒருங்கிணைத்து இன்று அந்த நிகழ்வு நடைபெறுகின்றது. நமக்கு அது மட்டற்ற மகிழ்ச்சி. முக்கியமாக பாத்திக்கும் அனுவுக்கும் எங்கள் நன்றிகள். இப்படியான சேவைகளை மீண்டும் செய்து வருமாறு கேட்டு எங்கள் தமிழ் சமூகத்தை, அதாவது தமிழ் பள்ளிகளை முன்னேற்றத்துக்கான எல்லா உதவியும் செய்யுமாறும் அன்புடன் பாத்தி, காந்திவன், வாசி எல்லாரையும் அன்போடு கேட்டுக்கொண்டு விடைபெறுகிறேன்.
Thank you, President Prayalan and Patron Nandiswaran, for your few words. I would like to thank Parthi Kandavil and Anushri Sandaraja for coming today as our trustees and to help us organize our workshop today. So we would like to call up Parthy up the stage to say a few words.
Vanakkam ellorkum. Good morning, everyone. It's my privilege to be here to help organize this workshop for Tamil students from our community, to not just the students, but the parents, the families, to understand the high school experience. When I look back many years ago, the high school experience is, in my opinion, the most important experience. When you get to university, you have an idea of your direction and your personality, but it's the high school experience that determines and shapes who you are, your personality, and your direction. It's a very, very important time in your life, and very important that you have the right foundation. So today's presentation by very respected, learned, established leaders in public education is a boon, is a benefit for all the families here to learn from leaders, not just in our community, but in the wider public mainstream community. When we were in high school, we never had Tamil principals, Tamil teachers. So for the students here now, you're able to see yourself in the people who lead public education. So it was my pleasure and privilege when Nandi's uncle reached out to Anu and I, who we have a little 3-month baby at home, so Anu couldn't come today. But when Nandi's uncle approached us, we were very happy to support, to organize the speakers. So this is something we can do every year, not just for the Mahajana old boys, but all Tamil families, to help better understand the school system. So thank you very much for organizing, and thank you for having me.
Awesome. So I'm going to give you guys some background about our organization. So Mahajana College OSA, Toronto, Canada, is an organization that focuses on connecting with Tamil youth community to provide opportunities, advice, guidance, and mentorship when it comes to students' education and future goals. We're connecting with families to provide them an open space here where they can connect and ask questions conveniently, either in Tamil or in English. And by providing this opportunity for students and parents and guardians, they will be able to learn more outside of what they already learn in school. So in the past few months, we had a few great events, one of which was a martial arts workshop, which was the first of its kind for this organization. We also had our annual youth contest, which was a tremendous success, and we had the biggest turnout yet. We will be having our annual prize giving ceremony on June 25th, so we'll see you all there. And some exciting upcoming events include our coding boot camp, sports camp, robotics competition, and another workshop just like this for high school students on what to expect in post-secondary education. So let's get started with the first panel. We'll be calling upon Kandipan Ganeshalingam, who is the principal at Markham District School, and Vasuki Murphy, the vice principal at Oak Ridge Junior Public School, to begin our workshop. They will be presenting an array of topics which will be able to give you all some insight on how to transition from middle school to high school.
Thank you so much. நாங்க ஸ்டார்ட் பண்றதுக்கு முதல்ல ஒருக்கா அந்த land acknowledgement செய்துட்டு நாங்க ஸ்டார்ட் பண்ணுவோம். சரியா? Okay. Please stand. So land acknowledgement. We acknowledge we are hosted on the lands of the Mississaugas of the Anishinaabe, the Haudenosaunee Confederacy, and the Wendat. We also recognize the enduring presence of all First Nations, Métis, and Inuit peoples. Thank you, everybody. Please be seated. I'm going to pass it over to Kandipan. Here you go.
என்னுடைய பேர் காண்டிபன், பிரின்சிபலாக இருக்கிறேன். A little bit about myself, not too much. நான் ஊரில் தான் பிறந்தேன், ரெனிவல் ஹாஸ்பிட்டலில் பிறந்தேன். நான் ஜெஃப்னாவில் வளர்ந்தேன். நான் ஜெஃப்னாவில் 7 ஆளில் வளர்ந்தேன். Right, so a lot of இங்கே இருக்கிற நிறைய உங்களோட அம்மா அப்பா மாதிரி உங்களோட எக்ஸ்பீரியன்ஸ் தான் என் எக்ஸ்பீரியன்ஸ். Right, student இங்கே பியர்சனில் down the street, டாப்ஸ்கார்டில் பியர்சனில் தான் படித்தேன். பிறகு a little bit further down, University of Toronto, ஸ்கார்பில் படிச்சுட்டு பிறகு டவுன் டவுனுக்கு போய் அங்கேயும் படிச்சுட்டு then I came to as a teacher at Middlefield. Teacher computer science, math, science പഠിപ്പിച്ചൻ, guidance counselor ആയിരുന്നു ഞാൻ. And then Millikenல vice principal, Thornhillல vice principal, பிறகு principal அப்போ இருக்கைக்குள்ள வான்னு இருந்தது. அப்புறம் பேரை மாற்றினாங்க, ஹோடான் நல்லையா செகண்டரி ஸ்கூல் அந்த ஸ்கூலுக்கு பேரை மாற்றினாங்க. அதுக்கு பிறகு நான் இங்கே மாக்கம் டிஸ்ட்ரிக்ட் திருப்பி இங்கே ஈஸ்ட்டுக்கு வந்துட்டேன். அதான் என் எக்ஸ்பீரியன்ஸ். In the session, we want it to be beneficial to you. We could have a PowerPoint say that வந்திருக்கலாம், இதை பற்றி கதைச்சிருக்கலாம், but we want to hear what you want to know about. Okay, so I want to take a few minutes, and especially to our young children that are here, and ask you, there's candies in the back, those chocolates are really good. I had one of those, right? So I want to hear, what is it that you want to hear about? Why are you here? Right? Before I do that, I'm going to give Vasugi a chance to introduce herself, speak a little bit about herself, and then we'll come back and ask you questions. Okay.
Just in around the time of when the riots were happening in Sri Lanka. And so then I came here and started high school. I went to Woburn Collegiate and then went on to university, a couple of different ones. I was in Winnipeg and came to York and ended up at U of T. And then I started teaching. And this is actually my 23rd year of teaching with the Toronto District School Board. And I'm currently a vice principal. So it's been a wonderful journey. I've had a pretty amazing journey with the board as a classroom teacher, and I also had a chance to work centrally in various roles. So it's been a great journey. So nice to see a lot of our young people here. I taught intermediate for many, many years of my teaching years, so I know where you're at. And so we're here to support all of you young people and also the parents, because we know, just like Kandipan said, how it feels to be on the other side with my own parents. And so there's a great deal of understanding here. So we just want to help out in any way today. Okay?
Thank you. So who's going to be that first brave soul? Who's going to be that first brave soul to say, this is what I'm here to hear about? I just need one soul, one brave soul. Go ahead, please. What's your name, my friend? You want to come up? Come on up. Come on up. And you don't have to. If you don't want to come up, you don't have to. But I'm going to give, it seems like he's, go ahead.
So my first question is, what courses would I need to take to become an engineer? And that's it.
Perfect. So that's a great question. What courses do I need to take to become an engineer? Is there another brave soul? Amma, Appa, parents? What do you want to know about schooling? Transitioning from... I can wait. I'm good at waiting.
தமிழ்லையும் கேட்கலாம்.
தமிழையும் கேளுங்க.
தமிழ்லையும் கேட்கலாம்.
வாங்க.
Hi, my name is Arun. So my question is, how do I guide my daughter transitioning from middle school to high school? So how do I change to guide her from elementary school to high school?
Thank you. So the question is, as a parent, what guidance can I provide? Okay. Yep, come on up, please.
Hi there, my name is Vivian. My question is co-op worth it for grade 11 and 12 students?
Yep. So the question is co-op, and we'll get to all those questions. Right now, we're just going to collect questions. So the question is, one, what courses do I need to take to become an engineer? How, as a parent, how can I guide my child as they transition from elementary to secondary? And what is co-op with it? Okay. Any other questions? Come on up, please.
Okay, my name is Jyoti Bhavan. I do have two boys who are 15 and 14. And right now they're not sure which field they want to go into. So how do we make sure that, they're guided in a way that they can maximize the chance of achieving, when they decide, do I want to go into engineering? Or because traditionally I know that in our culture, you only had 4 choices: doctor, engineer, lawyer, and an accountant. So, we still have that mindset as well. We would like to see our children to go into that field, but they're different these days. They want to do different things. So how do we guide them so that, because they are young, they cannot make decisions at some point. And I have observed many change their path as they're going through. So how do we guide them to maximize the chances of, when they get to grade 12 to make that decision, which field that they want to apply to?
Thank you. Any other questions? I feel like there's a young man here that's chattering but wants to ask or not want to ask. Okay. Those are 4 great questions. And we're gonna share our thoughts. We'll go back and forth. And I want to start with that first question here, and I think it's related to the question there from it's Arul, right? Arul's question about Arul's questions about how do I guide my children, right, as they transition from elementary to secondary. Okay, so if it's okay with you, and if all of you will take turn sharing thoughts. To the question about how do I guide my children and how do I guide them on the pathway, I'm going to share a little bit of my own story, just to give you a bit of a context as to how we can get stuck in some of that. I have a daughter who's 16, who's actually going to university in September, right? My son, 10-year-old. So I'm going to some of what I've experienced as a parent and as a teenager going through a high school system is I'm hopefully trying to kind of pass that on to my children. You're right? We get stuck in the thought process. Is engineer, doctor, lawyer, or accountant, and maybe something else. Maybe. Okay, that's what we get stuck on. Is it an ego thing? Is it a prestige thing? I'm not sure. Right? And the 4 options தான் சொல்லுவோம். நான் high school in the graduate பண்ணிக்கல. I was actually applied to University of Waterloo apply பண்ணேன், one of their top engineering program. Right? We were new to the country. அப்பதான் நாங்க கனடாக்கு வந்தாங்க. And we were just settling in. Right? I knew I didn't want to be behind. என்ன தெரியுமா, சின்னல இருந்து டெஸ்க்கு பின்னால all day இருக்க மாட்டேன். Computer, I can't sit behind a desk all day. I knew who I was. I need to move around. Half an hour, right? So if I was going to be an engineer, whether a computer engineer or any other field that required me to sit around for too long, it wasn't going to work. Right? My parents, who I love to death, right? Appa and hero Mari, Amma and over morning, so I love them to death, and they meant everything for me. Like they had my best interest in mind, and I can let them but they didn't always have it right. Right? And what I mean by that is they engineering okay, I applied, I got in. In the same day, they were going to move the whole family. I had 3 siblings behind me. ஒரு தம்பி 2 தங்கச்சி எனக்கு பின்னால. எல்லாரும் மாடலுக்கு போகணுண்டு. Right? அப்பதான் கனடாக்கு வந்தாங்க. Right? அப்ப போகனுக்கு என்னடா நான் சொன்னேன், I'm not doing that to the family. So என்ன சொன்னேன்டா, okay, UFTக்கு போறேன். அப்ப UFTக்கு சயின்ஸ் ப்ரோக்ராமுக்கு போனேன். சயின்ஸ் ப்ரோக்ராம் போனா என்னோட என்ன நினைச்சவன் டாக்டர் ஆக போறான். அதுக்காக தான் சயின்ஸுக்கு போறான். அங்கே போய் என்ன செய்தது, சயின்ஸும் செய்தேன், computer software engineering செய்தேன். Right? They'll say that because try to keep them happy, and I was able to do it. Right? Try to keep them happy. But I knew high school நான் படிக்கல. என்ன செய்தேன்னா, நான் பியர்ஸில் படிக்கல. கிரேட் நான் கிளாஸ் ரூமுக்குள்ள போய் இருந்து வேலை செய்வேன், லைக் டீச் பண்ணுவேன். அப்போ அங்கே ஒரு டீச்சர் ரிட்டையர் பண்ணிட்டு, அப்போ லாஸ்ட் இயர் அவர்கிட்ட டீச்சிங் இயரில் அப்போ என்ன நீயே அந்த கிளாஸ் நடத்து. அப்போ கிரேட் அப்போ நான் ஓஇசி மட்டும் நான் grade 12 ஸ்டாண்டர்ட் 1 year earlier graduate பண்ணேன். அப்போ grade 11 கிளாஸில் இருந்து போய் படிப்பிச்சேன். I loved it. நல்ல விருப்பம். அப்போ யூஎஃப்டிக்கு போய் சயின்ஸ் தான் அம்மா படித்தேன், சயின்ஸ் தான் செய்கிறான், இவன் டாக்டராக தான் வர போகிறான். ரைட், டாக்டராக தான் வர போகிறான். ஆனால் அவருக்கு தெரியும் அங்கே யூஎஃப்டியில் ஸ்கார்பரோவில் there was a program called Early Teacher Project. அவருக்கு தெரியாமல் அப்ளை பண்ணிவிட்டேன். ரைட், அப்போ Early Teacher Project and then டீச்சராக வந்தேன். ரைட், they were fine with it. ஆனால் என்ன மாதிரி அவ என்ன செய்யலாம், சாத்திரிகிட்ட போயிருக்கேன். ரைட், சாத்திரிகிட்ட போய் இவன் சார்ட்டை பார்த்து கேட்டிருக்கணும், என்ன இவன் டாக்டராக வர போகிறான், என்ன சாத்திரியில் என்ன சொல்லுதுண்டு. அவன் உடனே பார்த்துட்டு சொன்னார், அவன் டாக்டராக வர மாட்டான். ரைட், டாக்டராக வர மாட்டான், அவன் டீச்சிங்கு போக போகிறான், அவன் டீச்சிங்கில் பெருசாக வர போகிறான். ஓகே, அதுதான் தேவை, அவ்வளோதான் தேவை அவைக்கு. ஓகே, இவன் டீச்சராக தான் வர போகிறான், விட்டுட்டேன் அதோட. The moral of that story, அந்த கதை என்னத்துக்காக சொன்னான்டா, as a parent, and this is crucial, அருள் உங்களோட கேள்விக்கு, right, and your question. The moral of that story is, take your time to get to know your child, right? Take your time to get to know your child, what their interests are. அவைக்கு என்ன விருப்பம் இல்லை. And if they are interested in it, and if they love it, right, they will be happy in life. Right? The most important thing we want for our children is for them to be happy. Not that they need to be lawyers, doctors, engineers. Maybe some of them do want to be that. Right? But the most important thing that we want for our children, and we all love our children, is that we want them to be happy. So the best thing you can do as a parent is find out what your child is interested in, who's your child, what is their strength, and guide them there. Okay, I'm going to give you an example. My daughter, who's in French immersion, right, loves music. That's her calming space, right? In transitioning from grade 8 to 9, she wanted to be with her friend, right? And her friend wasn't taking music. Her friend was taking drama. So because I knew my daughter and we have that bond, and especially there's something about fathers and daughters in that bond, right? So I had that bond. I go to my daughter and say, listen, what's going on here? Sometimes we got to push our children. I'm not saying we let them do everything they want. We got to push our children. But I was able to do that because I knew my child. So I went to my daughter and said, listen, what's going on here in your course selection? You love music, right? That I want to be with my friend. Now, think about that. I didn't have to push her too much. She knew where I was coming from, and she knew that because I had that relationship with her. Right? And so I went to her and said she changed it. That's the best decision she made as a high school student. Right? Right now, going into university, she has lots of options. Okay? Where I usually don't get arrogant or I don't blow my own horn, but when it comes to my children, I kind of do, right? So she does have a huge scholarship going into different programs. She has options. First of all, as a father, this is where I'm going to kind of say, as a 16-year-old, you're not going away from home, right? That's kind of distant. But in terms of the program that she's doing, right? She's going to, although she's done computer science and all those courses in high school, math and all that, she's decided she's going to go do something that's different from that. Psychology, she loves working with people, right? She's going to do minors and other stuff, but that's what it is. So my long-winded way of saying to the two questions, we'll come back to the other questions, is please invest in getting to know your children. Having to strengthen, having to interest in that. Invest in building relationship with your children. Take the time to be with them. I don't miss my son plays sports. I don't miss a single game. If there's stuff happening at work, our work is busy, especially in the last 2 years with COVID. And my experience last year with something that I was going through with the school, with the renaming of that school, was busy. But I made sure I didn't take advantage of that it wasn't at the expense of my children. Take the time to be with your children, get to know your children, Build that relationship so when you can have that conversation with them, right, you've guided them in the right way. Even now, I had a conversation with her yesterday. I said, listen, I don't want my ideologies, my thinking to influence you. I want you to be your own person, and who that is. Okay? Rossi, that's a long...
Oh, no problem. Yeah, no, thank you. So I think along those lines, but not in one of the things I was thinking, even the traditional pathways and the professionals, a certain thinking on other areas like music or drama or other arts or is a very creative process. And so they actually crisscross and help the students to thrive, your children to thrive in other areas. So I think at some point the thinking is, if I go into a certain field, that's what it's going to be. But the underlying pieces, they're growing and they're expanding the way, the way they think and the way they problem solve, the difficulties, the challenges that they're going to face. They become agile, I think, and you become creative in how you're going to, because difficulties and challenges, and we know now, like, it's been a very challenging time, right? As a world, as, families. And so how do we get through all this? And so I think, as you were sharing, that was one of the things I was thinking about. Why do we think of these traditional pathways as the only way, but other pathways allow our young people to think in different ways? So I'll give you an example. If I'm going to various curriculum areas, design thinking or engineering thinking process. On the process, நாங்க வேற disciplinesல கொண்டு வரோம். At the, you try something. இப்போ engineering processல you design something, you create a prototype of some sort. நீங்க try பண்றீங்க, இப்போ அது fail பண்ணா போய் திருப்ப அதை இன்னொரு செய்யணும். திருப்ப செய்யணும். ஒரு கையில 2 தடவை இல்ல, maybe 10 times. On the perseverance, எல்லா fieldsலயும் different areasலயும் வேணும். So as a parent, maybe this is to the parents, get to know your children, understand where their strengths are, opportunities at Kurungo, areas where you think they need growth in. And I think they'll have a bigger picture and a fuller picture. Okay? I think that's...
Yeah. Thank you, Vasi. Okay. Any questions about that and guiding, whether that's from 8 to 9 or just overall even after that? Okay. Yeah, come on.
Some of us அடுத்த வருஷம் 8 courses எடுக்கத்தான் போயிடும். அப்ப அதால என்ன தமிழ் கிரெடிட் வந்து இப்போ எடுக்கணும். கிரெடிட் மூணாவது கோர்ஸ் வந்து யூனிவர்சிட்டிக்கு ஹெல்ப் பண்ணலாம்னு சொல்லி அதை
Good. Sorry. That's a
yes. Elect courses selection. அது மூணு elect course selection. அதுல வந்து visual arts இருக்கு, non visual art, அதுல வந்து டிஃபரண்ட் இருக்கு. டெக்னாலஜி இருக்கு, அதுல கலப்பா இருக்கு. அப்ப அது difficult ஆயிருக்கு. எதை சூஸ் பண்ணா எதுக்கு யூஸ் பண்ணணும்ன்றது கொஞ்சம் difficult ஆயிருக்கு.
Thank you. அந்த கேள்வியில மறந்தா இருக்க சொல்லுங்க எனக்கு. Okay. So it's a lot of the questions there are secondary based. So if that's okay, I'll take that. Okay. மற்ற 2 கேள்விகளுக்கு தந்துட்டு வர்றேன் உங்களோட கேள்விக்கு. Okay. Co-op. Somebody asked about co-op, and I think there was another question about engineering. Right? So what courses is needed for engineering? So for co-op, number 1, if you can fit it into your timetable, absolutely. Okay? If you can fit, and depending on what your course load and what it is, absolutely. So I'm going to share with you, like, what I didn't get a chance to do co-op just because I had other courses that I wanted to take, all the maths, all the sciences. I wanted to take a law course and all that. So I wasn't able to fit it into my timetable. But what I was able to do while I was doing that, while I was in high school, is so if you don't know, if you go down Nielsen, right, a hospital, Centennial Hospital, right? You've got there, and then right across you've got the 7 Oaks, which is the elderly home, right? So what I did, part of other things, I was very heavily involved in extracurricular, and part of that is working at those places. So at Centennial Hospital, I worked on the 10th floor, volunteered in the 10th floor, which was the mental health and support unit, right? I worked at the Seven Oaks, which is the elderly home. And I will tell you right now, I learned more from that experience than any course that could have taught me. For what I'm doing right now, that taught me more than any physics, math, computer science, anything that could have taught me. That's what that taught me. So I go back to what Vasagi said about those skills that you start to develop in these experiences, right? So those skills. So for example, one of the major priorities in our board, and I'm going to speak into English because you asked the question and I assume, right? But anybody, right? One of the priorities in our school board is around, especially now with COVID, is mental health and well-being, right? That experience from 20 years ago, 20 whatever years ago now, it continues to support my work and lead the work in my school and in the board. Okay, so you never know what those experiences and how that can come back, right? The other experience, the elderly home. So often when I went to that elderly home, the elderly people that were in that home didn't have visitors. So they appreciated me being there almost every week, right? Every week I was there and I had a conversation with this one particular gentleman I remember. What it teaches you is compassion. Right? That's a big part of our job, in any job, right? What also is, there was a benefit to me. I sat there and I listened to this gentleman who was a retired teacher. And he told me stories after stories every time. I just listened. That has impacted the way I do my work. Right? So back to your experience, books are not going to teach, well, they are going to teach you some things. I'm maybe a little biased there. They are going to teach you some things, but life teaches you life. Right? And those experiences, whether in the form of a co-op, in form of an volunteer, if you can't fit co-op into your course thing, in the form of a volunteer opportunity will teach you. Okay? All right. To your question about engineering. Any university, when you're applying to university, you need 6 U and M courses. U or M courses. University, what we call university level courses. So for example, ENG for you, English for you, is the grade 12 English course. Right? So you're going to need 6 courses, and often, and you're going to have to do, and I'm speaking generally, but each university has its own requirements, and you're going to have to do that research. But the English for you is one of the mandatory courses. Often the engineering courses requires you to take 2 more math, maybe third. 2 sciences, maybe a third. Right? So do that research. So what you want to do now, right, in grade 8, I'm assuming, are you in grade 9 now, my friend? Okay, so when you get to grade 9, what you really want to focus in on is building your foundation, and especially foundations in math and sciences, right? Just build that foundation. Don't worry about that. Things will take care of itself when you get to grade 12. Build that foundation, okay?
Can I speak on that?
Yeah, absolutely.
So because you're in grade 7, and I think even in the intermediate life, and as part of the new math curriculum, there is a section called social emotional learning. In this age, you're going to come across some anxiety around, let's say, mathematics. How do you handle when a problem is difficult? So part of the mindset is that growth mindset. I am able to solve problems when I'm faced with it. So the social emotional learning is a new strand in the new Math 2020 curriculum that was not in the previous 2005 curriculum version. There are a couple of others as well, financial literacy and such, but something that you might want to, as you're thinking ahead, and for all our intermediate students here, as you're thinking ahead, think about, when you're having a test or a question, think about how am I, what am I doing to face these problems and to solve these math questions when it's challenging. And so I'm just thinking, I know you're looking a little ahead, but I'm kind of in the present, because right now is also important. Because the skills that you're going to develop now will support your journey moving forward. Okay? So what are some things when you're faced with a difficult math challenge or any other challenge really? What steps do I have? Do I have a plan? What are some things that I do as a student to help me to move through those challenging? And what mindset you're in? Am I going to give up and say, oh, you know what, this is hard, I'm not going to do this? Or am I going to persevere through this because I know I have supports with my teacher, my parents, my friends, I have a supporting journey. So think of those things as well as part of your journey, okay?
And I think, and what was mentioned here, probably the key component that you need to, and I don't mean, you've heard it already, and I don't mean to repeat it, but that is more than anything else, more than any content courses, that's a piece that you really want to build on. Okay. Do you want to take the summer courses or?
Oh, no, go ahead.
Okay, so the question was about summer school, right? Summer school often is a reach ahead opportunity. Right? Summerல என்ன நடக்குறேன்டா பாடங்கள் எடுக்கலாம் எக்ஸ்ட்ரா பாடங்கள் right? High school இருந்து graduate பண்ணிக்கல you need 30 credits 30 credits. So elementary school it's grade 7 grade 8 and so on, right? And grade la irundha ஒரு grade la irundhu over grade in high school என்னண்டா credits based 30 credits 18 compulsory credits கட்டாயம் எடுக்கணும் and then 12 நாங்கள் சொல்கிறோம் elective credits and உங்களோட விருப்பப்படி எடுங்க ரைட் அப்போ அந்த 18ல 4 இங்கிலீஷ் எடுக்கணும் ஒவ்வொரு கிரேட்லேயும் ஒவ்வொரு கிரேட் லெவல்லையும் இங்கிலீஷ் எடுக்கணும் ரைட் 3 மேத்ஸ் எடுக்கணும் கிரேட் 9 10 and 11 மோஸ்ட் பீப்புள் கிரேட் 12லையும் எடுப்பினா ஆனால் 3 மேத்ஸ் எடுக்கணும் 10 சயின்ஸ் எடுக்கணும் ஸோ ரைட் there 4 plus 3 7 7 plus 2 is 9 18ல 9 credits are there there's phys ed art அப்படி வேறு இதில் இருக்கு right அப்போ 30 credits நிறைய பிள்ளைகள் என்ன செய்ய வேண்டாம் சம்மரில் சில பாடங்களை எடுத்து விடணும் right and lots of opportunities சம்மரில் e-learning மூலம் எடுக்கலாம் virtual schooling மூலம் எடுக்கலாம் in person அப்படி வேறு வழியெல்லாம் இருக்கு என்ன நடக்குன்னா அந்த பாடத்தை எடுத்த உடனே one less credit and the 4 yearsல one less credit to take if you don't right ஆனால் கூடுதலாக என்ன பிள்ளைகள் எடுக்கிறேன்னா அந்த பாடங்கள் எக்ஸ்ட்ரா பாடங்கள் எடுக்கிறேன்னா அப்படின்னா வேண்டிய இன்ட்ரெஸ்ட் படிப்பேன் எங்களோட பிள்ளை கிட்ட மாதிரி co-op எடுக்கலாமா right அந்த சம்மரில் எடுத்தால் you just opened up 2 spaces to be able to do co-op for example right எங்களோட மகளுக்கு சம்மரில் நிறைய பாடங்கள் எடுத்தோம் என்னத்துக்காண்ட because she had interest in law she had interest in music she had interest in computers and all that எல்லா பாடமும் எடுத்திருக்கல அது சம்மரில் எடுக்காட்டா வாங்கிச்சா அப்போ அதுக்காகத்தான் சம்மர் ஸ்கூல் எடுக்கிறது சில நேரம் என்ன நடக்கிறேன்னா பிள்ளைகள் we have a bad year right and or bad semester or some circumstance பிள்ளைகள் they're not successful in their credit எடுக்கிறேன்னா 50% எடுக்கணும் 50% எடுக்கணும் அப்படி 50% எடுக்காட்டா சம்மர் ஸ்கூலில் போய் எடுக்கலாம் right or different models there right அதுக்காகத்தான் summer school இருக்குது it's called the continuing education model and continuing education extra பாடங்கள் எடுக்கலாம் okay அதுக்காகத்தான் summer school இருக்கு தமிழ் school right விடுறது நல்லது right தமிழுக்கு விடுறது மிக முக்கியம் I think எங்களோட பிள்ளைகள் வாழ்ந்த காலத்தில் எத்தனை டிஃப்ரெண்ட் லாங்குவேஜ் அவருக்கு தெரியுமோ அவ்வளோ பெனிஃபிட் அவைக்கு ரைட் அவ்வளோ பெனிஃபிட் சில நேரம் நாங்கள் பயப்படுறோம் அந்த படத்துக்குள்ள ஃப்ரெஞ்சுக்குள்ள போனால் நாங்கள் அவைக்கு உதவி செய்யலாதோ அப்படி பயப்படுறோம் நாங்கள் நான் எத்தனை பாடம் அவைக்கு தெரியுமோ அது தட்ஸ் பெட்டர் ரைட் கனடாவில் ஃப்ரெஞ்ச் English if they know they have a bit of an advantage Tamil தெரிஞ்சா even more right we're becoming a globalized world where the more languages நான் மகளோட Mandarin போய் எடுக்கலாம், right? That's another predominant language that's going to be, I think, 10 years later, a language ever put. I wish, in the village, especially Milliken level, I wish I knew Mandarin and the support I can provide for those families. Even 1 or 2 words, a few words there. Okay? Okay, so Tamil Padam edutha, yeah, definitely, and that's another credit for them that gets them ahead. Okay? Okay.
Last credit for you have a last credit and the math kuda marks edutha adu university ku help pannadhu in case other part apprenticeship.
Yeah, so the last Tamil credit, appo nan solla university ku poranda 6 paadam edukkonum, 6 grade 12 paadam edukkonum. And at the university level. So, in the course code pathinganda, first 3 characters is the subject area. So, ENG and English. Okay, MCR and math. The next character is the grade level. Up 4 and grade 12. Right? And then the next letter, the 5th character, is the level. So, college, university. Up university ku poranda, you need 6 university level courses, grade 12 university course. So the Tamil, I think they put it as LITDU, right? DU, and then the 5th character U. So you can use other pavikalam. That would be part of your top 6. Okay? But again, once and then the program check pannungo, because there are specific requirements for some programs. Right? Engineering, engineering definitely English edukonam. Most universities need you at least 2 maths, right? Most university needs 2 sciences. That's a prerequisite. Tamil Tamil yeah, well, check into, but I'm pretty sure they all do. Check.
So the course code, where can you find it? PDSP side or the school?
So, do you want to? Okay. A course code, and in the Vengada board, we use, I think Toronto uses the same thing. My blue plan or whatever, right? Adukla pointing and the course select pannringa. Upon the code irukum and the course in the pair and pakkathula irukum.
In terms of if I want to look at grade 9, grade 12, what courses?
Yeah, on the school, usually in the school side later come. Or after letting a guidance counselor, I want to do the full list of courses. And okay? Okay. Vasavi, sorry.
Yeah, I actually have a screenshot of the TDSP page. The TDSP page or a screenshot on the காட்டுறேன். அப்ப நீங்க அந்த வெப்சைட்ல போய் பார்க்கலாம். சும்மா ஒரு ஸ்கிரீன்ஷாட் எடுத்துனான். இப்போ நீங்கள் TDSP பேரண்ட்ஸா? ஓகே. அப்போ நீங்கள் வந்து இப்போ உங்களோட மெயின் TDSP.on.c போனீங்களா, அதில் வந்து இந்த பாருங்க, இதில் இந்த ஹோம் பேருந்து ஏர்லி இயர்ஸ் இருக்கு, எலிமெண்ட்ரின்னு இருக்கு. இது லைவ் பேஜ் இல்லை, சாரி, இப்போ லைவ் பேஜில் நான் கிளிக் பண்ணியிருப்பேன். அது வந்து உங்களை அந்த இன்ஃபர்மேஷன் என்ன வேணுமென்று அதில் இருக்கு. மை ப்ளூ பிரிண்ட் இன்ஃபர்மேஷனும் அதெல்லாம் இருக்கு. இப்போ இந்த ஸ்க்ரோல் பண்ணிங்களா, இப்போ கொஞ்சம் பேஜ் போக செகண்டரி ஸ்டூடெண்ட் நியூ டு த டிடிஎஸ்பி அப்படிலாம் டிஃப்ரெண்ட் செக்ஷன்ஸ் இருக்கு. அப்போ அதில் நீங்கள் எனிபடி இப்போ போயிருக்கிறீங்களா அந்த வெப்சைட்டில்? நீங்கள் பீல் டிஸ்ட்ரிக்ட், ஓகே, பீல் டிஸ்ட்ரிக்ட் வெஸ்ட் எண்ட், ஓகே. அப்படி இருக்குமென்னு நினைக்கிறேன். பீல் டிஸ்ட்ரிக்ட் போர்ட்லேயும் அப்படி ஒரு பேஜ் இருக்குமென்னு நினைக்கிறேன். அண்ட் Durham also will have one. Yeah. அப்போ அதில் கிளிக் பண்ணுங்க. உங்களுக்கு ஒரு இன்ட்ரெஸ்ட், ஒரு ஸ்கூல் இன்ட்ரெஸ்ட் இருக்குண்டா அதில் நீங்கள் ஒரு சர்ச் செய்யலாம். அல்லது ஒரு செக்ஷன் இருக்காக்கும், ஃபைண்ட் யூர் ஸ்கூல்னு இருக்கு அந்த டாப் ரைட்டில். அதில் கிளிக் பண்ணி உங்களோட ஸ்கூல் ஏரியா இன்ஃபர்மேஷனை போட்டிங்களா, ஸ்கூல் இன்ஃபர்மேஷன் வேறு. யோக் ரீஜன், ஓகே.
ஒவ்வொரு ஸ்கூல் பேஜில் ஸ்கூல் பேஜ் பாருங்க, பிகாஸ் எல்லா ஸ்கூலும் எல்லா கோர்ஸும் ஆஃபர் பண்ணுறாங்க. எல்லா ஸ்கூல்ஸ் ஐடி இருக்கும், அப்போ எல்லா ஸ்கூலும் எல்லாமே ஆஃபர் பண்ணுற ஸ்கூல் பேஜ் பாருங்க. யோக் ரீஜன் ட்ரானோ பட் யோக்
உங்களுக்கு ஒரு கல்வி இருந்த போல இருக்கு. பீர்லேயும் நீங்கள் ஸ்கூல் பெஸ்ட் அப்ரோச் நீங்கள் கைடன்ஸ் டீமை கேளுங்க. அங்கே ஸ்கூலில் அதுக்காக தான் அவையில் இருக்கணும். அந்த கைடன்ஸ் டீம் கோர்ஸ் செலெக்ஷன் சப்போர்ட் பண்ணுறதுக்கு தான் நீங்கள் கைடன்ஸ் டீமை கிட்ட கேளுங்க, அவை தருவினோம். Normally, I will have a page. Okay? So, yeah, so grade 12 English is definitely. சில ப்ரோக்ராம்ஸுக்கு யூனிவர்சிட்டிஸ் என்னத்துக்காக சம்மர் ஸ்கூலுக்கு சம்மருக்கு எடுத்தனீங்கன்னு கேட்பினேன் பட் கன்சிடர் பண்ண எல்லா பாடமும் இதுதான் அவையில் பேக்ரவுண்ட் என்ன செய்யணும்னா பட் நோ தே ஷுட் பி ஏபிள் டு அக்செப்ட் தட் universities எடுப்பினா சில நேரம் என்னென்னா ஓகே and I shouldn't share secret I can share this சில நேரம் என்னென்னா அது ஸ்கூலுக்குள்ள எடுக்க புஷ் பண்ணுவேன் right different things அதை பற்றி worry பண்ணாங்க universities will accept என்ன நடக்கும்ண்டா அது எங்கட காலத்துலயும் அப்படி இருந்தது நான் அப்போ வயசு மட்டும் 5 years program. Up and 4 years, 5 years program. Up a grade 9, 10, 11, 12, always ended in that. 5 வருஷம் நான் ஸ்கூல்ல நிக்க விருப்பம் இல்லை அப்போ சில பாடத்துல சம்பளம் எடுத்து நான் 4 years 3 yearsல முடிச்சிட்டேன் அப்போ அப்ளை பண்ணிக்கல கேட்டவங்க ஏதாவது பாடம் சம்மர் ஸ்கூல்ல எடுத்தனியா என்னத்துக்காக அப்போ நான் சொன்னேன் I did and because I wanted to fast track and graduate earlier right மகள் 2 yearsல graduate பண்ணி போயிட்டா and அதே கேள்வி நான் என்ன கேட்ட கேள்வியே இப்போ கேட்கினேன் என்னத்துக்காக எடுத்ததுன்ட்டு சொன்னா because I wanted to graduate early right அப்போ கேட்பினம் அதுவும் some of the like எங்களோட program engineering program or whatever அதுகளுக்கு கேட்பினம் இல்லையா but it's not இது இல்லை சில அது எடுக்கலாம் கேட்பினம் ஏதாவது என்னத்துக்காக எடுத்தது என்ன காரணம் என்று கேட்பினம் அதுக்கு நீங்கள் பிகாஸ் இது ஏதாவது ஒரு காரணத்துக்காக தான் எடுக்கிறீங்க அதை எக்ஸ்பிளைன் பண்ணி விட்டா சரி ஓகே சொல்லுங்க Yeah, so yeah, electives are so currently in summer school or grade 10 பாடம் எடுத்தா sorry grade 9 முடிஞ்சு grade 10 grade 9 summerல ஒரு பாடம் எடுத்தா grade 11 sorry grade 10ல 8 பாடம் எடுக்கணுமா ஒவ்வொரு ஸ்கூல்லும் ஒவ்வொரு போர்டின் பாலிசி normally நாங்க என்ன சொல்றோம்னா grade 9 10 and 11ல full course load எடுங்கன்னு சொல்றது பிள்ளைகளுக்கு right and they're too young on the grade 9 or 13-year-old 14-year-old 15-year-old or 75 minutes normally on the period or 75 minutes summa schoolukku theriyira safe illa avaikum safe illa engalukku schoolukku nalladilla right appo naanga normal solradhu grade 9 10 or 11 ninga full 8 paadam edungo appadi and one of the compulsory summer ku mudichittinganda vera edavadhu elective ella grade 11 paadathai edungo right idu grade illa thane idu subject thane appo grade 11 paadam edungo nu solra okay yeah solunga yeah
so where until when you grade 12 you start applying the university
yeah
at what point we are faced
as long as so the question is if you have to do 6 university level courses இப்ப முடிக்கணும் கேட்டா ஜூனோட முடிச்சா அந்த செப்டம்பருக்கு போறான்டா ஜூனுக்கு முடிச்சா சரி yeah you apply in January so என்ன நடக்கும்னா இப்ப last week தான் நாங்க midterm marks அனுப்பி விட்டனாங்க right university எங்களோட பிள்ளைகள் grade 12 பிள்ளைகள் யூனிவர்சிட்டிக்கு அப்ளை பண்ண அவன் மார்க்ஸை நாங்கள் Ontario University Application Center நாங்கள் டிரான்ஸ்மிட் பண்ணுறோம் இதுதான் மிட் டேர்ம் மார்க்ஸ் யூனிவர்சிட்டி என்ன செய்கிறாண்டா திருப்பி வந்து சொல்லுவீங்கன்னா we have accepted you conditionally right இது and they will put in the condition in the போடுவீங்க right some most programs you just have to finish the Ontario Osslt and your marks can drop significantly right so on a high school and the graduate right right and some programs will have specific conditions so for example I think some of the engineering programs will say you have to maintain a 75 in calculus or something like that like apdi in the conditions போடுவாங்க right okay These are great questions. Thank you. Okay, I'm hearing a lot of questions from parents, not enough from our students. This is your life. We're here for you.
Can we just ask what grades? Like, can you maybe introduce yourself? Give us your grade? Because we don't have a lot of people here. Yeah, what's your name now? Kapish, what grade are you? Grade 8. Okay. How's it going? Yeah, excellent. Which high school are you applying to? Oral Secondary School. Okay, great. And how about you?
My name is Avinash.
Avinash?
I'm grade 8 and
Oh, sorry.
I'm going to Middlefield High School.
Middlefield?
I'm going to go to Middlefield High School.
Middlefield High School. How's grade 8 going so far? Yeah? What's good? Give us a couple of things that's going well. And perhaps a challenge too.
We're going to have a field trip.
That is excellent, actually. That's nice. It's good. After a couple of years, a field trip is a great thing. Yeah. Where are you guys going? Where? Oh, nice. Your class, or is it a school trip?
The grade 8s.
The grade 8's like a little, like a graduation trip? Nice. Okay, good. And you're in grade 7?
Yeah.
And, yeah.
My name is Loki, and I'm hoping to go to Cameron Heights High School in Waterloo. Cameron Heights.
Okay. In Waterloo. Do you live in Waterloo?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay. Well, welcome to Toronto. There you go. Great. Anybody here? High schoolers? No? We're all looking like high school students over here. Everybody's looking amazing today. Great. Yeah, good.
My name is Tavian, and
Tavian.
I'm a grade 10 student at Albert Campbell Collegiate.
Wonderful. We actually have some Albert Campbell tutors volunteering at our school. We do a tutoring program. Yeah, and we have some students from there. It's great. Great. Any other questions? Any academic questions or anything content-based from school, from your schools? Yeah.
What motivates you to be moving up? Like, when you transit from grade 8 to grade 9?
What motivates you to keep pushing forward?
What advice would you give?
Yeah, you know what? I guess going back to something Kandipan shared as well, I think a lot of us have a little bit of a history. We saw the journey of our parents. We saw the challenges, the difficulties that they experienced at a very early age, I think. And so there's a little bit of that that's deeply embedded. As a young person myself who came here, I was in I started grade 8 here in Canada. So I think there's something there that's kind of, motivates you. But then you find something that you're interested in. It's a very similar story, right? So you kind of go through and then you find something, you land on something that you enjoy. And then so many years later, the passion is still there, right? And I kid with my kids all the time. I have 2 children in grade 8 and grade 6. And I tell them I was an educator before I became a mom. So there's a lot of educator in me first, a lot of that in me to kind of do the work of education before I was a mother. So, so little things like, I watch my own parents, their journey. I watch the struggles. So sometimes, younger folks who grew up here, maybe born here, but came here as a young person, I know sometimes they might look at you and say, oh gosh, another story of your journey. Like I share my story and they say, oh my goodness, again, அப்படி சொல்லினோம். ஆனா ஷேர் பண்ணுங்க, சில வேளையில சொல்லணும், இங்க கொஞ்சம் challenges போனா இதால தான் நாங்க எந்த நாளும் சொன்னாலும் கொஞ்சம் இப்படி போயிடும் தலைக்கு மேலால. ஆனால் இடக்கிட அந்த ரைட் டைம்ல இருக்க சின்ன ஒரு எக்ஸாம்பிள் சொன்னா அது கொஞ்சம் ஸ்டிக் பண்ணோம். The other thing is, இப்போ நான் யங்காக இருக்கையில கொஞ்சம் ட்ராக் அண்ட் ஃபீல்ட் அப்படி செய்து நான். அப்போ அதை மாதிரி எங்களோட பேரண்ட்ஸ் எங்களை பஸ்ஸில் கொண்டு போய் பேக் ஹோம் ஃபீல்டில் விளையாட செய்து அப்படி செல்லாம் செய்தவையால் அதுகளும் சின்ன சின்ன சாமான் நிற்கும். அப்போ நானும் இப்போ காந்திப்பன் சொல்கிற மாதிரி எங்களோட பிள்ளைங்கள கேம்ஸ் ஒன்று மிஸ் பண்ணுற 7 மண்டா கொண்டு போகிறது லேட்டாயோ வந்து டயர்டாயும் இருக்கும். சில லாங் டேஸ் எங்களுக்கு சில வேளையில் இப்போ இந்த தீஸ் டேஸ் ஆர் வெரி பிஸி டேஸ். வீட்டை வந்துட்டாலும் கொண்டு போகிறது என்னென்னா இருந்துச்சு அந்த you understand opportunities கொடுத்து அப்போ அந்த அதுகளும் will stay with them. My parents are doing this for me, so therefore, so these are some of the sort of practical ways. I hope that helps. Kind of thing.
I think I could share. So my daughter was in the same shoes a couple of years ago, and the advice I gave her, and I continue to give her: be yourself. Right? You're going to go from an elementary school, maybe of 300, 400 kids, to maybe 1,700 kids. Right? Be yourself. Know who you are. Right? And do not let anybody tell you otherwise. Right? And when I say that, that's both from just a social life point of view, right? And from an academic point of view. If you have passion for something, whether that's your guidance counselors, and I hope that it usually doesn't, but sometimes people will form opinions of who we are without even getting to know us. And that's the reality, right? I'm going to put it out there, right? Do not let anybody tell you who you are and who you're not, and invest in trying to figure out who you are, right? If that's your interest in music, whatever. If you want to be that engineer, make sure that you put all your efforts into that. Or if you want to do something else, but don't do the engineering or science, whatever that you do, it's for it's who you want to be. I'm very intentional. I know who I am, but I'm very intentional not to impress that upon my children. Right? And I'm very intentional about telling them what they can and they can't do. Right? Often, and I'm going to go back and touch on a little bit, there's different things that happen systemically and all of that other pieces. Don't let that, and especially as a racialized body will happen, don't let that happen. Don't get yourself caught up in social aspects of it, right? That social life, and now with social media, don't get caught up in some of those stuff. Again, whatever decisions you make is who you are, right? Believe me, and I'm going to stand here and tell you this, I wouldn't be, and I call this, I wouldn't be in the position that I'm in, and I wouldn't be in the position that I'm going to be in, whatever I'm going to be at, if I wasn't resilient. And it goes back to what it says, know what your families, we've been through, like I've been through, your parents have gone through, and that resiliency that we built, and I call it a stubbornness. Right? Nobody's going to come tell me what I can't do, or what I'm capable of, what I'm not capable of. Nobody's going to turn me into who I'm not. Nobody's going to drag me into drama. Nobody's going to drag me into drugs. Nobody's going to drag me into anything unless I want to be there. And then if you do want to be there, then you need to start thinking about why that is. Right? It is going to be a bit intimidating, and we understand that. Elementary, 300 kids to 1,600. Right? Identify yourself who you are and be true to that. Okay? These are great questions. Thank you. That's, take it for what it is. That's the advice that I gave my daughter. Whoever she is, turns into, that is who she is, not because her peers or anybody else influenced her, or because some teacher told her she's capable of this or not. Hopefully teachers lift us up, but that's not always the case, right?
Special education questions vary, but I did think of that if anybody wanted individual education plans, special education related questions, and you can achieve everything with, if individual education plan இருந்தா அதே ஒரு டாபிக்கா வச்சிருந்தாங்க. இப்போ questions ஏதாவது இருந்தா we can share it.
These are great questions. Keep them coming, please. Hopefully you're finding this beneficial. Yeah.
to speak for, I know someone asked about the engineering question. There are a lot of community courses that are available. I know like my sons are doing electronics class in Durham region. So that provides opportunity whether you would enjoy that field or not, if you want to go into electrical engineering or computer engineering. So take use of that. Because I know back in Sri Lanka, உங்களை தனியாக ஸ்கூல்லேயே வச்சிருப்பேன் ஸ்போர்ட்ஸுக்கு விடாயினும் வேறு படிக்க விடாயினும் பட் கனடாவில் தி ஆப்பர்ச்சுனிட்டி வந்து யூ கேன் பி எ மியூசிஷியன் அண்ட் அட் த சேம் டைம் பி எ டாக்டர் ஆர் அன் என்ஜினியர் ஆர் அ சைக்காலஜிஸ்ட் என்னென்னா இங்கே வந்து ஆப்பர்ச்சுனிட்டிஸ் வந்து உங்களை எல்லாருக்கும் கூட இருக்குது. அப்போ ஸோ தாட்ஸ் வாட் எந்த சன்னுக்கும் அவருக்கும் அப்படி தான் மியூசிக்கில் நல்ல இன்ட்ரெஸ்ட் இருக்குது, மார்ஷல் ஆர்ட்ஸ் செய்கிறவே அண்ட் தே கோ டு எலக்ட்ரானிக்ஸ் கிளாஸ். இப்போ ஸோ இங்கே வந்து எல்லா ஆப்பர்ச்சுனிட்டியும் இருக்குது. மற்றது என்னோட பேரண்ட்ஸுக்கு அட்வைஸ் என்ன சொல்லுவேன்னு சொன்னால், நீங்கள் ஒவ்வொரு நாளும் பிள்ளைகள் வந்தோடனே இன்றைக்கு ஸ்கூலில் என்ன நடந்தது சின்னதுல இருந்தே நீங்கள் அப்படி கேட்டு பழகினா தென் தே வில் கம் ஷேர் எல்லா ஸ்டோரியும் உங்களோட ஷேர் பண்ணுவீனா. அப்போ அதில் இருந்து நீங்கள் யூ கேன் sort of pick on what they enjoy and what they don't like and who their friends are and what they're saying. அப்போ நீங்கள் ஸ்கூலுக்கு போய்க்குள்ள பிள்ளைகளை என்னென்னு என்கரேஜ் பண்ணுறேன்னா sometimes they might not do well in the course. அப்போ நீங்கள் கேட்கணும் why you didn't do well and இன்றைக்கு ஏன் நீங்கள் அப்படி செய்யலை நினைக்கிறீங்க, அதுலேருந்து நீங்கள் என்ன லேர்ன் பண்ணுவீங்கன்னு நீங்கள் பார்க்கலாம். ஸோ அது ஒரு அட்வைஸ். அந்த மம்மா இருந்து உங்களோட கேள்விக்கு என்னென்ன பிள்ளைகளை என்கரேஜ் பண்ணுறேன்னா ஜஸ்ட் ஹாவ் கான்வர்சேஷன் சொன்ன மாதிரி நீங்கள் அவையோட கதைக்கிறது வெரி இம்பார்ட்டன்ட். மேக்கிங் டைம் அவையோட, பிகாஸ் ஐ நோ சம் பேரண்ட்ஸ் எல்லாரும் பிஸியாக இருப்பினா, ஆனால் அவையோட கதைச்சு பழகினா then it becomes very normal to them. மற்றது engineering, as I said, there's a lot of courses that you can take. Especially with COVID, when it opened up a lot of opportunities for digital learning. But digital learning course you'll know what you enjoy and what courses you can go into in the future university. And ellarum sonna madri, you don't have to be in one field. You can do as many as you want. Because adan Canada vil opportunity vandu ungalku everything is open to you. It's for you to choose. That's the thought that I would leave with. But I think I'm speaking, I'm a nuclear engineer. I work as a senior manager, managing the refurbishment of the Darlington nuclear plant. But on the point of view, in the children, same. Avi madri chinnanla Canada English onam theriyama grade 10 illa vandanan. அப்புறம் வாட்டர்லூவில் கெமிக்கல் இன்ஜினியரிங் செய்து அப்புறம் மெட்டர்னிட்டி லீவில் நிற்கக்குள்ள ஐ வாஸ் டூயிங் மை மாஸ்டர்ஸ் கோர்சஸ். இப்போ நியூக்ளியர் இன்ஜினியரிங்கில் மாஸ்டர்ஸ் செய்தேன் நான். பட் அப்படி செய்துட்டும் படிக்கக்குள்ள கேக் ரீடிங் கோர்ஸ், ஆட்டோ மெக்கானிக்ஸ், காருக்கு என்னென்று டயர் மாற்றுறது, மற்றது யோகா டீச்சர் சர்டிஃபிகேட் வச்சுக்கிறேன், மற்றது இமிக்ரேஷன் கன்சல்டன்ட் சர்டிஃபிகேட். ஸோ யூ கேன் டூ இந்த கனடாவில் என்னவும் நீங்கள் செய்யலாம். ஒரு தொழிலாம் நீங்கள் போகணும் வண்டி இல்லை. ஸோ அதை ஆல்வேஸ் கீப் இன் மைண்ட் அண்ட் ஆல்வேஸ் கீப் த கம்யூனிகேஷன் லைன் ஓப்பன். உங்களோட சில்ட்ரனோட எந்த நேரமும் கழிச்சு கொண்டிருக்கிறது இம்பார்ட்டன்ட். ஜஸ்ட் வாண்ட் டு ஆட் தட் பொது பிள்ளைகளுக்கு ஆஸ் அ பேரண்டாக சொல்ல விரும்பினேன்.
Thank you, and it's important. I think it speaks to it's important that, and I'm speaking to the children here. Know your family's history. And it goes back to be who you are, and don't ever let anybody tell you otherwise, right? And part of that is your own identity, right? What is your identity? And you have to figure out what's your identity. As a school system, and I'm going to talk, and one of the things that I firmly believe in as a leader in a school system is affirmation of the identity that our students come into. And what I mean by that is we got to celebrate who you are. And if you're not doing that, then that's not happening on the other. Well, it needs to happen on the other end, but right? Okay.
Quite an interesting point and another. I don't know if this is a cultural thing or not. Maybe you guys can tell us. Like you share something as a culture. I think we don't give young people voice, right? Sometimes we hear them, but it's not like you're not at the table giving giving voice to the conversation. So that's very important. நீங்க கேக்குறது என்னன்னா அதை வேல்யூ பண்றீங்க. அவையில் சொல்றது important. Avenda, ideas, avenda insight, avenda enna feel paninamo, enna difficulties, enna challenges, enna like good experiences, enna nalam naan neenga solradhu enna value pandren. And adu a very important piece. So I don't know if it's a cultural thing. Sometimes it's not valued in terms of, what you say have to, I don't, maybe I wouldn't generalize it, but something that's very important to give voice to the young people. And adu greater voice later in life. Okay? Anything from you guys, from your perspective? Can you tell us, what do you think about what you've heard so far? Why don't you share? Maybe somebody between our students. Yeah, can you tell us a little bit? Yeah. Can I bring the mic to you? Sorry, sir, I'm going to bring the mic to him if that's okay.
For me, everything that's been described and informed in this session, I find it very, very useful. And I know a lot of other kids who are also in the transition period, like me, or are in the middle period. I think we find it very useful that we know there are these supports and that there are these resources for us, and that there's people who we can ask our help to, such as our parents, our educators, or our peers. Yeah, so that's
Pass the mic to a few other people, actually. Hey. Somebody from here. Tell us a little bit about, what do you think so far? Any information that you think from just your perspective? Anybody? Yeah, sure. It's okay. Tell us a little bit about
So I agree with him, and I think that this is really useful. And the part about to keep going is, I like how you phrase it and how it was, and most of this is really useful.
Thank you so much. And how about yourself? Yeah, that's what we can.
It's been helpful, useful for next year, so yeah.
And how would you like to have more voice? What is it that we can do as, as parents? What is it that we can do as educators to give you, to be able to share more? Is there anything that, from your perspective? Yes, let me come to you.
I think that representation is really important too. Today we're seeing brown people in education, and I think that's really cool because a lot of the times you don't see that in education. I think that's really cool that we're having this today and serve a voice for Tamil people and Tamil students, Yeah.
Thank you. And you know what? I have to agree with you. It's really nice for me too to be able to share today with Kandipan, who I met today, and to meet yourself today. And I'm actually quite, thrilled as well to be able to, to be able to meet like-minded people and to be able to be here. So it's not just in schools, but it's also on different levels, and age as well. So thank you. Great. Thanks, everybody.
Sorry, I know they're speaking from a school perspective. For me, from an industry perspective. So the next step is you go to university and then you'll be looking for a job. So what I would say is in Sri Lanka, they look at what grade you get. The higher the grade, they choose you. But in Canada, that's not the case. I would say the person in Waterloo, the person who had the highest marks was the last person to get the job in our class because his communication skill wasn't good. So public speaking is crucial. Preparing for interviews, very important. So what I suggest the people that I mentor at work and outside in university is a lot of the times at work when we interview people, where we know that they graduated from university. So they already have the academic skills that we're looking for. What they need is the behavior. Behavior is the one that's hard to change. So we ask behavior-based questions. For example, tell me a time that you have to make a difficult decision. So you have to have examples prepared. So what I tell them is, as you go through in your life, write down some of the key things. For example, when I was pregnant with my older one, he was due in February, and he was an 8-pounder, so my tummy was out to here. And at work, and I said, I want a parking close by, because at nuclear plant, like if I were to slip and fall, it's considered a medically treated injury, and it's something that we're measured on. And they looked at me because they haven't had a young person with the child, because they didn't have a lot of female engineers. So I advocated for that, and I asked for a parking. There are things that, for example, so I used that when they ask questions. Tell me a time when you made a change in your organization. I would use that parking, because now we have a parking for pregnant women. Similarly, like, when did you challenge a status quo? So in our company, we have Take Our Kids to Work Day, and they said that, we can only bring the children who are children of the parents, like, who are working at the nuclear plant. And so I asked them that, what's the point? Because I can always explain to my sons how nuclear plant work. We want to be able to bring other people who have never had a chance to come to a nuclear plant to be able to come in. And I made that change last year to say that, we can bring in people that are not working there. Like, you can bring in your other, like, cousins or niece, nephews to the Take Our Kids to Work Day. Because some parents may be working in a field that the children are not interested in. So they should be able to go to the plant. So those examples, I noted down, because I'll be going through interviews in my career, and I'm going to be using those. So tell your children, even from now, they should start recording those, because during the interview, it'll be all behavior-based. They will not be asking, very rarely they ask technical questions when they go to get jobs. So always keep those stories about, the difficult decision you made, a difficult person you dealt with. Like there's different questions you can look up, Google, like behavior-based questions. That's what it's all about. So communication is critical. If it's, if you don't have the opportunity, at least, on your birthday parties, have them make a speech. Or in your parties, ask them to speak about someone. And so give that opportunity to your children, because trust me, the grades, once you come from university, you need to maintain a certain grade in order to do, say, if you want to do masters, you have to maintain a certain average. But other than that, whether you get 100% or 85, it doesn't make a difference in university. It's the communication skills that's critical. So I want to add that from an industry perspective, as I used to interview new grads, but now that I'm at a senior level, I don't do the interviews. I interview like managers and above now, but when I used to interview new grads, that's what I tell them, I advise them. Keep a diary of all the significant events that you go through in your life to use as an example. So tell your kids to do that now, and it will be very useful. Any question regarding that? I know I came to learn, but I thought I would share my experience, because it's similarly, like, I came here without speaking the language, and I had to pretty much every weekend I was at the Toronto Public Library downtown trying to take the test of English as a foreign language, spoken English, written English to go to Waterloo, because it's a very difficult university to get into for engineering. So and now it's even more competitive. So if there's any question related to work, how you prepare for career, like I can answer if you want.
I'm mindful that this was supposed to be an hour session. I apologize to our organizers. I think we're at 11:15 now, that we're gone for an hour and a half, I think. Okay, so I'm gonna who do I hand the mic back to? Okay, please know where we're on if you have any other questions, okay?
Thank you so much, Vasuki and Kadiman, for presenting your side of all the concepts that's needed for transitioning from grade 7 to 8 to high school. But we would like to call upon both of you back up onto the stage, Vasuki and Kadiman. Parthi, And our two new speakers that will be coming up as well, Pravina and Kishan, up to the stage, please. And I would like to call upon our president to come up and present these flowers in honor of coming in and helping us with our organization today and our workshop to help all of these students.
I don't need any daughter yet. This is the first speaker.
10 years.
Nadie Bongo. Thank you.
So much, what a pleasure, thank you.
So thank you so much. So we're going to be starting off with panel 2 now, and Kishan and Pravina will be presenting our next presentation. So thank you so much.
Just quickly, we have Mr. Kishan Tavesran, who's a teacher, very well-liked teacher at R.H. King, and also a graduate from R.H. King as well. So very happy to have him. We also have a very admired and respected vice principal at Agincourt Collegiate, Ms. Pravina Sivaraja, who will be presenting our next panel on the secondary school experience. So thank you. I'll pass it over to you guys.
Yeah, that'd be great. Thank you so much. I'm just wondering if you guys could pull up the slide deck for me. So Kishan and I will talk a little bit about what to expect when you come into high school, and some of the expectations that you're required to meet in order to get your Ontario Secondary School Diploma. So we're just going to pull up a slide deck here that can provide you with some visual information as well. So Kishan and I just came a little bit later. Maybe we can start by getting to know the crowd a little bit. How many students are here? Just raise your hands up, please. 1, okay, great. And what, are you guys in grade 8 currently? How many kids are in grade 8 just currently? Yeah. Anybody in grade 9? Anybody in grade 7? Okay. So anybody in grade 6? No? And nobody in grade 10? Grade 10? Okay. So we have essentially grade 7, 8, 9, and 10, right? Perfect. Okay. While we're waiting for the slide deck to come up, does anybody have any questions about high school before we get started?
So I went to R.H. King Academy from 2009 to 2013. I was a part of the Leadership Pathway program there. So I was very involved in the school community. So some of the things I was involved in was really helping with administrative events, running things like commencement and parent-teacher interviews. So it was an opportunity to take a lot of leadership roles, knowing kind of what I wanted to do in the future. I decided to become a teacher back in grade 1. So I kind of knew that's where my life was heading anyway. So it was just a great time to explore the different avenues I can take. Grade 9 and 10 was really about exploring the different courses that I could potentially pursue moving forward, and then kind of honing in on my interests, my skills, and then deciding to kind of focus in on math and science at the end of the day. I personally loved high school. It was just a great time. You met a lot of new people. I had a different experience in the sense that I had, I know they're getting rid of middle schools, but I went to a middle school with about 400 kids. So we were already a mix of like 5 different elementary schools. So we were already getting to know our peers, but in high school, it was easier to find people who were more like you, who had interests, and a lot of it was through extracurriculars more than the actual class itself.
So I came to Canada when I was 8. I actually grew up in Africa, so never really got to live in Sri Lanka, but definitely identified as Tamil Sri Lankan, right? I went to high school at Georges Henry Academy. Never really had a lot of Tamil students around me because everybody went to Vanier, which is close by as well. Ended up going to Queen's University, which also doesn't have a very large Tamil population. So just growing up, didn't really have that community base, which I missed. On the other side, just because I was listening to the other session about identity and how that's so important. I think that for some of us growing up in this culture, we're really living in two worlds: the world that we have when we're at home and the world that we have when we are out in the community. And sometimes it feels like you can't be Tamil enough or you can't be Canadian enough, and it's quite an interesting dichotomy. So that's something that I really struggled with growing up. I didn't quite fit in with the Tamil community for whatever reason, maybe because I didn't really grow up in Sri Lanka, right? But then everybody around me in terms of my family, they were all Tamil. So definitely a very strong part of who I was. Couldn't really get to show it. So just that struggle was something that was very apparent with me growing up, trying to find a place in the world, that kind of thing, by trying to figure out who I really was in terms of all the different kinds of experiences around me. So it was nice to finally, just through life, like growing up, trying to come to terms with the fact that it's okay being who you are. There's no such thing as not Tamil enough or too Tamil. It's just who you are. And just coming to that acceptance was a really huge step for me in terms of coming into my own. I hope that made sense, okay? But, and the slide deck is up. Preparing for high school. That's an interesting, perfect, thank you.
On the side, the rollers.
This one? Oh, the rollers over here? Okay, great. I've kind of lost my train of thought. Leadership. So again, I would say that as Kashan said, extracurricular is key. As much as you're focusing on academics, in order to develop yourself as a whole human being, it's really good to make sure that you have other interests. And then that way, when you are trying to go for a job interview or trying to find a career, you actually have something that you can contribute, right? More than just your academics. A lot of people can do really well at school, but it's really what you can bring to whatever it is that you are pursuing that would make the difference. Okay? So we're just going to get started on the actual presentation. We're going to talk a little bit about what's expected in high school, and then we can answer some individual questions that you might have. So in order to get an actual Ontario Secondary School diploma, there are 3 things that you need to do. Number 1, you have to earn 30 credits. Of these 30 credits, 18 are compulsory and 12 are electives. And there's some info, and this slide deck will be shared with you. And there's links here that will take you to all the details that you need to know. I'm just giving you an overview of what it is to expect, okay? In addition to your 30 credits, you have to successfully complete the literacy component. So either you write the Osslt, which is the Ontario Secondary School Literacy Test, or you complete the OLC course. Generally what people do is they try to write the test first. If they're not successful, then they have the opportunity to take the course. The third thing that you need to do is get 40 community hours. Because of the pandemic, things have changed a little bit, right? So for students that were graduating last year and this year, the literacy component and the hours, they've been modified, but you guys are just starting out. So likely by the time you are graduating high school, you'll still need to meet this criteria, okay? The link, it says click here for more information. What that link provides is what credits you actually need that are compulsory and elective, as well as what constitutes acceptable volunteer opportunities. There's some things that you cannot list as the 40 hours that you need to graduate from high school. Okay, so that link will provide you with all of those details. Are there any questions so far? Okay. So when you come to high school, there's different streams that you can, but different pathways that you can go towards. At the TDSB, we're really moving forward with academic pathways. And what that means is that in grade 9 and 10, every student will take an academic math, English, science, geography, history course. Okay, so there's no longer the option of taking an applied level course. And the reason why that is because the data has shown that students who are taking applied level courses have less opportunities post-secondary. And sometimes students who are placed in the applied level courses really aren't supposed to be there, right? For whatever reason, systemic, whatever it might be, kids are in applied level courses when they really should be in academic. And so what the TDSB is trying to do is give students more time in grade 9 and 10 to find their pathway, so that when they come into grade 11, then they can make more of a decision as to where they would like to head towards. Okay, and that link that's highlighted with academic pathways will give you more information about what that program is all about. Okay, any questions so far about that? So once you hit grade 11, you can take different types of courses. You can take workplace courses, college courses, and university level courses. And each of these pathways lead to what it says there, right? So if you take workplace courses, then that means you're going straight into the workplace when you graduate from high school. That could also mean that you're going into apprenticeships, and there's many opportunities, and I'm speaking generally from the TDSB because that's where I work, and I'm sure the same opportunities are available in other boards as well. But if you are interested in any kind of apprenticeships, so plumbing, electrician, that kind of thing, there's many opportunities when you're in grade 11 and 12 to get your foot into the door and have those experiences while you're still in high school. The college level courses are for students that are interested in going into college level programs, and the university level courses are for students who are interested in going into university post-secondary. There's also courses that are considered mixed level, and so you can use those courses towards going to either college or university. But it all depends on the program that you'd like to enter in when you reach, when you are ready to go choose your pathway to university. That sort of image that you see there, it just gives you the like sort of different pathways and more information about what you would need if you want to go into the different pathways. Okay. Any questions so far? Yep.
Yeah. So the first slide you said 13 credits, 18 compulsory elective.
Oops. Yeah.
So grade 9, after grade 9, then you are going to go to this 3 different path, right? So by grade 9, then how many credits you have?
So every year you have to have 8 credits. So you have the ability to take 8 credits every single year. So if you take 8 for grade 9, 10, 11, and 12, you'll have 32. So what generally happens is in grade 12, some kids take spares to lessen their course load, right? In grade 9, when you come in, you have to take math, English, science, phys ed, gym, geography, and then you have 2 electives. So that could be an arts, or that could be a tech, or there's different options that are available. So students coming into grade 9 pretty much have to take 6 that are compulsory, and then they have 2 credits that are electives. In grade 10, I don't remember off the top of my head, I think it's 5, right? So English, math, science, history, which you have to take, and then civics and careers. Thank you very much. So those ones you have to take, and then you have 3 electives, right? And what students generally do is that if they know that they're interested in, let's say, robotics, right? There'll definitely be options for different, depending on the school that you go to, then they'll take a tech course, or they'll take an art course, or something like that. So there's different options. And then in grade 11 and 12, you have to take English and math, but then the rest are all electives. So if you're interested in going into sciences, then you'll take biology, chemistry, physics, right? If you're interested in arts or humanities, then you'll take, sociology, or you can take history, that kind of thing. And actually, so it's a good question, because I'm going to show you again how you can plan what you would like to do as you go on. And when students come into grade 9, they really don't know what they want to do. And it's really good to keep your doors open, right? So whatever courses that you're taking, just make sure that you're taking things that will allow you to go go to any discipline once you get into grade 12. And really, it's your grade 12 courses that matter if you're looking to go into post-secondary in terms of what program you get into, because the universities are looking for particular courses for whatever program you'd like to get into. So there's a lot of time, because a lot of the kids here are grade 8 and 9, right? So you have a bit of time, but it's always good to plan ahead. And then if things change, then they change, but at least you have an idea of where you want to go.
So when you look at grade 10, so CBT has like more lot of credit for university level, university or only to it.
So if you're in the TDSB, then you'll be taking academic level courses in grade 9 and 10 generally, right? So for math, English, science, you'll be taking academic courses, and that will allow you to go either to university or college. You definitely need to have academic level courses in order to go into university. Okay? Yep.
What is the purpose of the community hours?
So the government decided, and very rightly so, that we want to create students that give back to society, right? And so that is basically like a social emotional component to your education. So the idea is that if you're going into the community and spending time, at least it's 10 hours a year, basically, right? If you're looking at the 4 years through high school, it's just giving you an opportunity and a mandatory way of giving back to your community. Okay? Yep.
So I'm going to school next year after school for 4 years. So how would that work?
Sorry, can you just repeat that? I didn't hear you.
So I'm going to a Catholic school next year, and I have to take religion all 4 years. So how would that work?
So I would likely think that it would replace one of the electives, okay? Because every student has to take 4 English, so grade 9, 10, 11, 12 English, 2 science, 3 math, in order to, and if you go to the link where it says click here more information, then it'll show, actually, would you mind, Kashan, just clicking on the link, yeah? And then we can bring that up. So when you go to a Catholic school, it takes the place of the electives. So you can see here, it just kind of lists out for you when you click on that link, all the compulsory and elective courses that you need. And if you go up a little bit, Kashan, that link where it says 40 community hours, that will tell you what qualifies as the hours that you can use towards your high school diploma. So it's very important that you take a look, because sometimes if you're tutoring a cousin or something, or babysitting, those things don't count, right? So you just have to make sure that you're doing the right thing. I think I can go back. I'm sorry? I think it's the same for all high schools in Ontario. Yeah. Okay. Any other questions so far?
So 40 hours we have to do like that, or you can do 22 years, 30 days like that.
Yeah, you can do it as much. So you can actually, if you're in grade 8 right now, and so you're finishing grade 8, then you can actually start in the summer, and that'll count towards your 40 hours. A lot of students actually end up with 200 hours. They don't limit themselves to 40 hours, right? If you're interested in going into medicine, for example, it's really good to volunteer in a hospital, that kind of thing. So just as a basic guideline, it's 10 hours per year. You can look at it that way, but a lot of students accumulate a lot more than 40 hours. Okay? Yep.
For some of the courses, there's mandatory work courses, like art.
So you have to take English all 4 years, 100%, right? Then you have to take math for 3 years, then science for 2. You have to take geography in grade 9 and history in grade 10. You have to take a phys ed sometime. Usually all the kids in grade 9 take phys ed, and then they get rid of that requirement. You have to take an arts and a tech, and then there's some options within there. So if you take a look at the link over there, it lays everything out for you. And then you have on top of that 12 elective credits that you can take, right? Does that answer your question? Okay. Any other questions before we go forward? Okay. So the course types, I think I kind of, again, these links take you to more information. So the idea is that this is sort of something that has everything in one place for you guys, right? But what I want to sort of draw your attention to are the last 2 links, the choices placemat and the choices guide. If you're going to a school in the TDSB, this is especially helpful because it's been created by the TDSB, right? But it gives you a lot of information in terms of the different programs that are available and the different pathways that are available. So would you mind, Kashan? I'm so sorry. Yeah, the placemat. Thank you so much. So this is a good tool to sit down with your parents and kind of map out what your 4 years are going to look like. And keeping in mind that there's a lot of flexibility, right? Like you should never lock yourself in, but it's always good to have a plan. And so as you can see, it's very small, I know, but on the side there, it tells you all the compulsory courses that you need. So definitely you need English. So all of that is laid out, and then it gives you spaces for all your electives. And actually, when students come into high school, I'm not sure about the other boards, but in TDSB, they use something called My Blueprint in order to select their courses, right? And that is essentially the exact same thing as what's up here. But you can use this placemat as a guide to talk about things before you actually go into My Blueprint and select your courses. And I think that this is a very worthwhile exercise to do as a family, right? So that everybody knows, and you can look at all the different information that's out there and come up with a plan. But I think it's also really important to keep in mind that things can change. You should never lock yourself in, because you, as a grade 9 student or a grade 8 student, you don't really know what your passion is yet. And I would recommend that whatever you do with your life, it should be something that you're passionate about. Otherwise, you're not going to be happy. Okay, so we'll go back a bit and then we'll go to the choices guide. So essentially, this is a one-stop shop for any question that you might have about the programs that are available in the TDSB, right? So the apprenticeship programs, I don't know if I can go down, but maybe just the table of contents if there's one. Yeah. So, you can just go, so it talks about the different course types, it talks about the specialized programs. There's a lot of different programs that are available in the TDSB. So generally what happens is where you live dictates what high school you go to, right? But if you want to go into a specialized program, you can apply to a different school. So for example, if you want to go to an IB program, or if you want to go into an arts program like cyber arts or Etobicoke School of the Arts, that kind of thing. So this document will list out all the different options that are available. It's not the only document that's available, but it's something that you can definitely look at. And it also talks about, again, apprenticeships or co-op, things like that. So I would recommend that you take some time to look through this document. Yep.
Is there any limit?
Yeah, so if you want, if a specialized program, you mean?
Yeah.
So give me an example of what you're talking about.
Say you want to art, robotics, and some other stuff.
Yeah.
Is there any limit?
No, so if you're in a regular high school, your electives can dictate what courses. So you can take arts, you can take robotics. As long as you're taking your compulsory courses, then you should be fine. But it's good for you to have a plan too, right? What it is that you would like to go into. So, and a lot of these things can be combined together because you can use your art skills and your sort of, logically minded skills to go into architecture, for example, right? So there's a lot of opportunities, and different schools offer different electives. Not every school will offer architecture, not every school will offer robotics, but hopefully, but definitely every school has a wide variety of courses that you can choose from. Okay, but there's no real limit. The only constraint is the compulsory courses that you have to take. Okay. Okay, any questions about that? So I would definitely recommend that you go and take a look at the choices booklet so that you can see what's available, especially if you're going to a school in the TDSB. Okay, so the last thing I want to talk about is just the role of guidance and the role of administration. So I'm not sure if this was touched upon in the first session, but in high school, you definitely have guidance counselors that are there for you if you have any questions about courses, but also if you have questions about things that are generally going on in life, right? So it's a very interesting and challenging transition coming in from grade 8 to grade 9, and then also going forward into post-secondary. And there's lots of things that come up. You're becoming an adult, you're a teenager, there's lots of competing interests that are going on, expectations from your family, your own expectations from yourself, expectations from your teachers. All of these things are happening, and if you need support, your guidance counselor is the first person that you can go to talk about these things. And if they're not able to help, they can definitely link you with other supports that are available in the schools. So every school has a social worker associated with them, a child and youth worker. There's many different opportunities. Every community has different organizations that can support your particular community, right? So in this case, the Tamil community, and your guidance counselor is a good person to go to in order to get you linked up with these different supports. So not only do they help you with your courses, but they can also help you navigate your relationships, navigate the questions that you might have, just in general when you're a teenager. Okay? Any questions about guidance counselors? Also for parents, the guidance counselor is a good person to go to. So if you have questions about courses, you would make an appointment with the guidance counselor to talk about what's available. And especially, I would say, in grade 11 and 12, when you're planning for post-secondary, it would be a good idea to make an appointment with the guidance counselor to talk about the different programs that your child is interested in and what the options are, so that you can see that, okay, if I want to go into, we always choose engineering, and I should probably stop that, right? If you want to go into humanities, right, then what are the prerequisites that are needed? And so what you don't want to do is find yourself in grade 12 and not having one of the prerequisites that you need for your post-secondary course. Okay? In terms of administration, so your principal, vice principals, what they're responsible for doing is essentially creating a community with the school, with the families in the school. Our goal is to make sure that you know that you're welcome at our schools, right? And that we're working together to support your children. Another thing that we do is we coordinate supports for families, and making sure that you and your children are well supported with whatever it is that we can provide within the school system. If you have any questions, it's very, depending, if you're not in education, you won't know everything that it has to offer. And so any questions that you have about the system, or any questions that you have about the processes of schooling, we're happy to help you and answer. So I think a lot of parents are very hesitant to reach out. They kind of blindly trust what's going on in school, and we definitely strive to do the best that we can, but we're here for you guys, right? So you please make sure that you're welcome to contact us by email or by phone. I know earlier we're talking about voice. It's so important for us to hear from students. It's also very important for us to hear from parents. Sometimes we're not aware of some of the important things that are going on in culturally, or even in your family, that might affect the schooling of your kids, and we won't know unless you tell us, and that's welcome, right? We want to know, and we try our best to reach out, but I feel like there's also a responsibility on your part to reach out to us to make sure that communication is open. Okay, so don't hesitate. Always reach out to your administration if there's a question that you have, or if there's an idea that you have that would make things better or easier for your kids or other kids. Those are all things that we want to hear about. Okay, any questions?
I have one question.
Yeah?
My son applied to H.School. I did the H.School case, but he doesn't like to go to daily platform. That's our whole school.
Yeah.
And also, he liked to go to Edinburgh.
I feel like this is a trick.
So, what's the solution for this?
Did you apply through optional attendance?
Yes, he applied. Yes.
And he only applied to...
RH King is actually closed for optional attendance. So we only take our in-area students and people that apply to the Leadership Pathway program as a way to control our numbers. So we haven't allowed optional attendance for a good 6 to 8 years now. So he can, and it's a bit too late to apply for the specialized programs, but the other option I can think of is he can go to David and Mary Thompson, and there's always switches over. Like you can transfer high schools later in high school as well, if that's something you're interested in. Yeah, I can't do anything.
I can add to that actually. So as I said earlier, the high school that you go to is based on your primary address, right? And so the only way that you can go to a different school is through optional attendance. And there's a number of schools that are also closed. So for example, Agincourt is also closed for optional attendance because we have about 1,500 kids, right? And so the reason those rules are in place is because there's not enough space in schools for everybody who wants to go there. So the other option is, I know he doesn't want to go to David and Mary Thompson now, but that seems to be the only thing that he can do for grade 9. But you have to go through the optional attendance process again in grade 10 to see if you can go to a different school. So don't choose a school that's closed because you're wasting your bid or whatever, right? So look and see what schools are open and then apply. Okay. You can go onto the TDSB website and then it'll tell you on this. So let's say you're interested in RH King. If you go to their website, it'll tell you whether they're closed or open on the website itself. Okay? Yeah? Uh-huh.
I don't know when they do it, right?
Okay.
But now the vote is, they divide the vote recently amended,
Yeah.
Vote 42, Rujpa, like there are new votes coming. So why don't they change the homeschool thing? Because we tried to apply for a French immersion a couple of years ago for my daughter.
Mm-hmm.
So we tried to apply a school within our
area
electorate, but that is not our homeschool. So they are giving the option.
Sure. So,
but I don't know why. But when they change these things, they have to change the homeschool criteria too.
The problem is with Toronto, we have more counselors than trustees. Like the ratio is not 1-to-1. So the electorate districts for our counselors is not the same for the trustees and the school boards. So because of that, the areas for schools haven't necessarily changed, even though the Toronto elections and municipal government has changed zones. Yeah.
Right to your counselor, right? Any other questions before we move on?
Okay.
Okay, sir. Do you want to control the?
Yeah. What am I doing with this?
You're just hitting the side button. Just this button. I just hit this button here.
Oh, perfect. So what I want to really focus on was, what do you need to do as a student in order to hopefully be successful in this high school system? So some just tips for success. The first thing is the organization and being prepared for class. Up until grade 8, there's no such thing as exams in the school system. In grade 9, you're going to start exams. So unlike grade 7, where you might get a test back and then you're I'm just going to throw this in the garbage. You want to try to keep as much things as you want, because all of that will be evaluated at the end of the year. So just some quick resources. You want to make sure you have all the resources you need for class. Most classes will require some sort of binder, lined paper, a calculator, and there may be specific courses that need other tools, which they will let you know on the first day. So again, unlike elementary school, with all high school courses, it comes with a course outline. The outline will tell you everything you need to know. So the teacher's contact information, what will be covered in the course, what resources, materials they need, how the marks are going to be allocated. So on the first day as a grade 9 student, again, a lot of well into university, no one bothers to read the course outline, but there's a lot of important information there. So parents, you want to probably look at that as well, just to know what's happening. Other things is, I know we're trying to move away from agendas because they're expensive, but try to have some sort of calendar or organizer. Unlike, again, elementary, where you might have just had one teacher the whole time, you have 4 different teachers who don't necessarily know what's happening in each of your classes. So it is possible to have multiple assessments in a given day. You want to make sure that you're prepared ahead of time to tackle all of these things. That doesn't mean you can't try to negotiate with teachers. If you tell them that you have 2 other tests on the same day, teachers are willing to manipulate their schedule and be malleable. It's just they need to know. So again, it's the students that need to approach them and make sure that their voices are heard. With the meeting deadlines, depending on the course, again, there could be like the traditional test quizzes, there could be projects and assignments, there could be more practical pieces. In arts, for example, you may have to record yourself playing music or dancing or things like that. So you just want to have some sort of calendar available to you so that you know when things are due, but you also make a plan for yourself as to when you're going to work on these things, so that you're not stressed at the end and you do a bad job, but also you want to make sure you build in breaks for yourself. You can't just, keep going and be as effective as you want to be. So you want to build in some free time, some rest time, and that can mean like the volunteer stuff, that can mean the extracurricular stuff, or that can mean just going on your couch and sleeping for 30 minutes. Again, I don't know how much homework you're getting in elementary school. With high school, it's supposed to be about 30 minutes of homework per course, which you have 4 courses in a day, so about 2 hours of homework. And that's just like the regular homework, not necessarily test preparation or project or other things, meeting up with group members. So just be aware of the time commitments. And one thing I kind of mentioned there was prioritize health as much as education. It's important to strive to do well, but your health and your sleep and your mental health is also just as important. So if you're feeling stressed, again, as Pravina mentioned, there's the guidance counselors, there's the teachers, there's people you can seek support from so that you're not kind of falling behind from the get-go. And I think I kind of mentioned most of this. The other main difference is you can start failing in high school as opposed to elementary, where even if you got failing grades, they kind of give you a 50 and pass you on. So what that looks like is if you fail a grade, or like a course, I should say, not an entire grade, you are going to be asked to repeat that course. And there's usually several options. Depending on the percentage you get, you might have to go to summer school. You might have to just repeat the course the next year. There's also opportunities like credit recovery. If you are very close in earning your credit, they'll give you the few assignments or assessments that you need to bump you up to a 50. These options are great to kind of get you the credit, but if, again, these are the courses you want to study in the future, it is like I would recommend repeating the course so you can actually build that solid foundation. So like you can get a 50 in math, get the credit and move on to grade 10. But that's not necessarily going to help you be successful in, let's say, grade 12 math, if math is what you're looking for. If you want to go into social sciences, humanities, and math you're planning on finishing in grade 11, you still want to put in as much effort as you can, but knowing that you're not closing any doors by not maybe doing your best in those subjects. Another main difference in elementary, a lot of students, not a lot, but some students have curriculum modified, so they might be working at below grade levels. That's much rarer in high school. So that's kind of what we're trying to do with the de-streaming. I know a lot of schools are trying to see how are we trying to fill in those gaps of students who may not have had as much of the education curriculum as they should have in elementary school. And the other thing, we've mentioned this a lot, but just advocate for yourself. So if you are having trouble in courses, if you do find that you're falling behind, you want to start to seek support. This can be from teachers, guidance counselors, but also your friends, your family, tutors, external resources, so on and so forth. The other thing you want to do is kind of start connecting with your teachers as soon as possible. Again, with your teachers in high school, you're only seeing them for 1 hour a day, unlike your elementary school teachers where you saw them for 6 to 8 hours a single day. So it is harder to kind of maintain that relationship. So it's the teacher's going to put effort, but the students kind of need to put the same amount of effort. And I would say the same for parents and guardians. Don't wait for teachers to communicate with you. Start emailing them the first week of school so you can kind of get an idea, open up that conversation so that if there are any issues or things that need to be addressed later on, you're ready for that conversation. As I mentioned, the course outline has everything that you kind of need, so just make sure you look at that. Again, and this, even our grade 12 students don't do this, but I think it would help you be successful, is being responsible as a student. If you know ahead of time you're going to miss a test, a quiz, an assignment, email them, let them know so that they are aware. You don't want to be in a situation where it just seems like you're skipping something or things along those lines. So again, on that course outline, emails will be provided, and most courses now have a virtual or online platform as well. So just make sure you're in constant contact so that everyone is aware of what's happening. And finally, understanding the hierarchy of high school. So let's say you are having problems, let's say with your teacher. A lot of people just kind of jump to, let's go talk to the principal without maybe talking to the teacher first. And so I would say you want to kind of follow this. Talk to the teacher first, see if the issue can be resolved. If it can, great. If not, every department, you should have a ACL or an assistant curriculum leader, a department head. You can approach the department head as a student to raise your concerns about the teacher so that they can try to deal with it as a department. If things still aren't resolved, that's when you want to go to either guidance or vice principals. So I just find it's effective if you just kind of know who you can seek support from and kind of the order you need to go through so that you can kind of get the best response. Finally, a lot of people mentioned the extracurricular opportunities. A lot of schools offer different extracurricular opportunities, and so you want to use them as much as possible. With extracurriculars, you probably are already involved in some extracurriculars. You may want to continue with that in high school. It might be an opportunity to try something totally new. I know we had a grade 9 student a couple of years ago who was like the most quiet kid ever, wouldn't even say her name on the first day. And now she's the head of the debate club because she took it upon herself. She's like, this is where I see almost like an area of improvement for me. So I'm going to try this safe space to try something new, to learn new skills. And it's worked for her. So trying new things that you might not have thought of. But also the last point where if you find that your school is not offering something that you want to run, go to your vice principals, and talk about the opportunity of starting your own club or council so that you can kind of take a leadership role in that avenue. Other than that, so post-secondary application, scholarship opportunities, personal satisfaction, it kind of all goes hand in hand with grade 9 and 10 are really there for you to explore the different courses. You don't need to tie yourself to a single course at that point. You saw that planning sheet earlier. Really in grade 11, you have 2 mandatory credits and 6 spaces for electives. So you really want to start thinking about in grade 9 and 10, through your volunteer hours, through your extracurriculars, what is it that you're interested in. There's also the opportunity, so there might be courses that your local high school cannot offer, but summer school might offer it or e-learning might offer it. So that's another way to take some of these courses that might not be available to you locally. And I was kind of mentioning the scholarship opportunities because a lot of people think academics are the only way to approach scholarships. You can also approach scholarships through extracurriculars, through volunteer work. So that's something you want to build starting in grade 8 summer or 9 all the way to grade 12. You don't want to leave these things to the last minute. Do we have any questions?
Sports.
Pardon?
Sports.
Yes, sports are also extracurriculars. So there's, depending on how much you've trained in sports, there's also scholarship opportunities associated with sports. We have about 5 kids at our school. They have a full, I think it's $80,000 scholarship to American universities. So if sports are something you're interested in, do outside club sports, but also extracurricular school sports so you can get the best out of your experience.
I think especially extra volunteer work.
No, sports are usually just tryout basis. So you try out, if you make the team, you get to play on the team. But also, let's say you don't make the team, we also tend to have things like intramurals where you can still participate in the sports, but just maybe not as competitively as you wanted. For sports?
Yeah.
Yeah.
How to connect?
So with universities, I think it's called einfo.ca. einfo.ca, electronic info. There's a list of all the universities, their programs, what the requirements are, so you can start looking at that. So in grade 10, students have to take careers, and that's part of the curriculum, looking at what opportunities are available so they can start planning their courses for 11 and 12 based on those pathways. Okay. Yeah.
So learn elective courses, right?
Yeah.
So to the student who is not go course, they couple of weeks, they don't like the course.
Yeah.
And they see.
Yes, so in grade 11 and 12, there are drop deadlines. So there's a deadline by which you can drop a course and the mark will not appear on the transcript. But if you don't make it by that date, the mark will appear when you drop the course. So there are dates, and usually if it's within a week or so, you can talk to the guidance and say, I don't like this course, and then they can probably put you on a wait list for other courses. If spaces open up, they can get you into that space. Yeah.
They always limit course. So it's already 20 students on one course. So if I want to enroll now, maybe I wait.
So it depends on the class size. So there's class caps or averages they try to maintain. If there are spaces, they'll just put you in. If there are no spaces, they know that, especially with grade 11 and 12, there's a lot of movement within the first 2 to 3 weeks. So they keep you on a wait list. If someone else moves out, then they can put you into that space.
Yeah, like usually after 4 weeks, then you're out of luck. Either you drop it or you continue on with the course. So if you want to switch courses, you have to make a decision very quickly.
Yeah. Yeah.
Can you talk about the high school marks, how they put it? For example, for one assignment, they have 4 different categories: thinking, knowledge, and something.
Okay. So the marks in Ontario are based on 4 categories. So we have the knowledge and understanding, which is, for example, like definitions. Do you understand the basic concepts? There's the communication piece. How well can you communicate your understandings? These can be presentations, longer responses. There's the application. So can you take the knowledge that you've gained and applied it to new situations? And then thinking and inquiry could be like science. Inquiry would be like the labs, things like that. Or thinking could be, are you able to think outside the box? So within a given assessment, they try to tackle 2 to 4 of these categories. And so they base your marks on that. And it really depends on the high school. Some high schools have marks allocated based on the categories. So it'd be like 25% of your mark is knowledge, 25 thinking, something like that. I've seen some high schools where it's more of a wholesome mark, where they take the individual marks, but then they put it into bigger bins. So it really depends on the individual high school.
When they start, the teachers explaining for them.
So all of that will be in the course outline.
Because
Yeah.
my other son is grade 9.
Yeah.
But when they start in the math is, I think he's careless or something, he's dropped the mark. But that math test is 4 categories. But other than other math tests, marks is good, but the 2 categories only. And knowledge or thinking. But the first test is 4 categories.
Yeah.
He dropped that one, and hard to increase the percentage because it's I don't know, the teachers
Before they explain the kids between the beginning and the end of the semester, they would offer different evaluations that will cover all 4 categories. So from what you're saying, the first test had all 4.
Yeah.
The next test only had 2. But then if you wait, then other tests
they
will
have to wait for increase the
Yes.
but until the end of the semester. Because I think the first test and the last test is 4 categories and the middle is
Yeah, so with high school especially, I find with elementary, you're kind of giving like a progress report as the months go by. With high school, like the midterm is really just a snapshot. Your mark can go much higher or much lower after the midterm. So like, yes, there will be opportunities throughout the semester and you only kind of need to worry about that final mark. Like there will be chances to balance out those 1 or 2 low marks.
So I would recommend that you speak with the teacher and just ask about what the opportunities are to increase the mark for those 2 categories, because it's specific to every school and every teacher how they do their marks, right? Yeah. And at the end of the day, the kids will get 1 final mark. So even though there's all these categories, there's 1 final mark, right? So if you're worried about how he's going to make up those 2 categories, I would just speak to the teacher directly and see what the opportunities are.
but you're looking for the final mark,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So here's more effort for the next test, but it's 1 point or 2 points is increased.
Yes.
He's worried about that, how they use for the first test.
They also do, like most teachers at the end of the semester, they'll take a look at all of their marks. If it's just 1 or 2 marks that are completely different from the rest, there are ways to kind of not make that count as much, or sometimes they eliminate that mark if they've been able to evaluate those same skills elsewhere. But again, it's more towards the end because they're trying to look at an overall picture. Because if the overall picture, let's say he got 80s on every test and 50 on one test, they're not going to necessarily allow that 1 mark to decrease the overall mark. Yeah.
But speak with the teacher. That's the best thing to do.
Yeah.
So every teacher marks different, like every school, every teacher.
I
How does school go maintain the consistency?
Ideally, there's consistency in your departments. So everyone in the math department should mark a certain way, especially for every single course. Everyone in the English department should mark a certain way. There could be some challenges to that, but overall it should be as consistent as possible. Yeah. Yeah. At the back, yeah.
So I have a question. I'm currently a high school student right now, and recently I was emailed from CDSP, high school student, that the Ontario Education Ministry needs us to complete 2 e-learning courses, and this was for students that have entered high school as of September 1st, 2020. I didn't quite understand what this was all about, and I'm not quite sure, is this optional or is this mandatory?
So currently, the way it's structured is everyone's opted into e-learning. So you've agreed, without really agreeing, that 2 of your 30 credits will be done through e-learning. E-learning is different from what we've had right now in terms of synchronous instruction. It's more asynchronous. So the teacher will have a virtual platform. They will place whatever course content you need to do. It's more of independent work. You work at the deadlines. You just kind of follow the schedule they provide you. There might be time to contact your teacher directly. It might just be through email. So right now, again, starting September 1st, 2020, every high school student is automatically opted into that. But if you do not want to do that as a part of your requirements, you can opt out of it. So I believe it's the parents are signing some sort of form with guidance. I believe it's online. Yeah.
Okay, so basically, you have the option of opting out of this, right? So there's a form that was sent to you by email to your parents, and they can choose to opt out. There is no disadvantage to opting out because you can still take e-learning courses in the future if you'd like. You can opt in later if you'd like. So the bottom line is that as long as you opt out, you can continue without taking e-learning courses. But even if you do opt out, you can still take e-learning courses without any kind of detriment. Does that make sense? So it's up to you. And what they would like is for kids who are graduating, who are in grade 9 and 10 right now, and they're graduating, for them to have at least 2 e-learning courses, but you can opt out of it. Make sense? Okay.
Any other questions?
Grade 9, EQA math is optional?
So EQA was always optional. You could always, as a parent, tell your school that you wanted to opt out of it.
10% marks
So I think in grade 9, I think they used to say that a portion of the grade 9 math mark should be the EQAO. I know they haven't done that for the past few years because of COVID, and I don't know if that's necessarily going to come back. But as a parent, you can opt out of it, and so they would just get a no mark, so that would not influence their overall mark. It wouldn't be a 0. Yeah.
But you can't opt out of the Osslt.
Yeah.
So, I have a question on EQA. What's the purpose of EQA? Some people say that mention the top of the teachers. I don't know what the exact purpose of EQA.
You can take that.
I think it was. I could talk a bit about the Osslt first in terms. So before the new diploma requirements came out, students had the option of dropping out of school after grade 10. So they can take courses until grade 10 and say, I don't think high school's right for me, I'm going to drop out. So I think the initial reason they had the Osslt was they wanted to make sure that the people who are dropping out were still literate, can still function in society. And then the math ones came, and I think that was more just the government wanted to see what's the overall performance of students, how are they transitioning throughout the years. That's the government answer. Does it necessarily influence overall education in high school? Not necessarily. It's just kind of something that's there more for the government. And I would say kind of like the housing market, people are very interested in EQAO and Osslt scores more than it having an influence on the actual education system.
I think there's a question. So sometimes I get emails from the WTO artists for student roundtables. I'm wondering what they're for and if they have any advantage to them.
This is Waterloo. I don't know what they're specifically about, but student roundtables are just kind of what we were talking about earlier. They want more input with student voice so that they can make decisions about something. I know in Toronto, we have like our student governance system, and they talk about policies that TDSB has that maybe it's been following and maybe why it's disadvantaging certain students, getting a student's perspective so that they can alter and modify these policies. So it could help you depending on what the topic of interest is, but also knowing that whatever you contribute is going to help improve the board over time.
And I want to add that every time you have an opportunity like that, I would suggest that you take advantage of it because it's also growth for you as a person. Sometimes, as we go through life, we don't really think about the things that are happening around us. And when somebody asks us for our opinion, then it forces us to think about what it is how we feel about the situations, right? And so I think even in terms of developing yourself as a person, it's a good opportunity. I would definitely go for it. Any other questions?
Yeah.
Oh, you get treats for asking questions.
Yeah.
Who wants a treat?
Yeah.
I feel like this gentleman should take like 5.
I already got it.
You got it?
Can you explain what the apprenticeship is?
Yeah, so apprenticeship is it's a lot of trades work, for example, but it could be other things as well. So it's where you're not necessarily needing a formal educational institution for your education and life goals, but rather you're going to be working with individuals. So things like electricians and plumbings and other trades instead. And not to say there's no school component, but the majority of your education is working under the guidance of someone who's more experienced so that you go to work with them, you learn with them. And if apprenticeship is something that's you're interested in, we do have the OYAP, which can start in grade 11 as well. So you build community hours while working with a professional in a field of interest. You are also learning from them while maintaining your high school credits. Sometimes you get high school credits for doing that work. Sometimes it's attached to co-op opportunities, things like that. So that's something that usually every school has some sort of OYAP/co-op coordinator. And I would say start speaking with them in grade 9 because there are students in grade 9 who are like, in grade 11, I want to do a co-op at a bank, for example. If you can kind of tell the teacher ahead of time, they can find those opportunities for you once you get to that grade.
The co-op program start grade 10 or 11?
No, it's 11.
Yeah, usually 11, mostly 12.
Because for co-op, it's either 2 credits or 4 credits. So half the day they're at their placement or the whole day. And with grade 9 and 10, there's so many mandatory courses, you usually don't have time to fit that in. Although I did hear that they're starting some co-op opportunities in the summer as well, which might help some students. Yeah.
Is it possible while doing your co-op for people to earn both high school credits and university credits at the same time?
Not through co-op, but there's another, not university credits, but college. There's a program called SWAC, School Within a College, and that'll allow you to earn some high school credit and also a credit for college. But I haven't heard anything for university.
The only thing I know for university is if you do AP courses and pass their exams, they might count, depending on how well you did, they might count that as an equivalent of a first year credit. But I don't think there's a specific program otherwise. Anything else? Okay, well, thank you for having us. Hopefully your questions were answered, and hopefully you can get more information through the links on the slides. Okay.
Great. Thank you so much, Pravina and Kishore, for an amazing and informative session. I'm sure you all got a lot of value out of that. And Saranga?
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much for presenting for us today. So we're actually going to be having two students that are coming up, or former students, to come up and actually speak about their personal experience transitioning from grade 7 to 8 to high school. So our first speaker is actually going to be Myron Padmakanthan, who's going to be giving his perspective on how his transition was.
Thank you. Hey guys, hope you guys are doing good today. So yeah, for me, I went through the whole transition from elementary school to high school and then high school to university. So a little bit about me. I'm currently in third year, or finishing third year at Ryerson University for biomedical engineering. So other than that, like outside of school, I'm also heavily involved with the community as well. Like as a side thing that I do, I'm also a musician. I play the saxophone, so I do performances outside of school at big events, weddings, and different parties as well. I also dance as well. I'm also like a Michael Jackson impersonator as well, so I do performances for that as well. So let's go back into elementary school. So in elementary school, I would say, before coming to grade 7 and 8, I would say I was a little shy. I wasn't as open. But then as the years went through, I guess into grade 7 and 8, that's when I got more involved. So I was more like all rounded in school. So I would do more involved in different clubs, sports as well. In grade 7 and 8, I was actually the president of my student council in elementary school. So with that, like, it helped build up my confidence essentially, and it helped me become better at speaking in public. And with the opportunity, we were able to organize big events, fundraisers. We had some big events called Family Fun Night, which is a big community school event where parents and children would come out and just have fun with the school. And also I was heavily involved with sports as well. So I did a lot of soccer, track as well. I know you guys in grade 7 and 8, you probably might have competed at Birchmount Stadium. So I did a lot of competition from grade 5 to grade 8. I mainly did like short track, so the 100 meter, 200 meter races. From grade 6 to 8, I believe, I made the city finals for the 200 meters. And in one of the years, I actually placed third in grade 6 for the 200 meters. So sports is like a really nice thing I love doing, and it helped me like stay fit and also make new friends and stay active. Also in school, I also did music as well. I was part of the jazz club and the band team with school. So it was just a way to like spend time outside of school and also just enhance like friendships as well. So I was heavily involved in essentially elementary school, and that helped me transition into high school, because from elementary school, you're gonna notice that it's a jump in terms of there's more people in your grade once you go into high school. So you may feel like shy with new people, making new friends and all that. So what I recommend in high school is definitely get involved in different clubs as well. In high school, there's a whole bunch of the student councils, there's business councils, there's sports councils. There's even a lot of sports teams that you can join. And there's a whole bunch of different opportunities. So definitely get involved in that. Like essentially for universities, they look at your top 6 grades. So you can put like a couple electives in there, and obviously the main English courses. And also I know you wanted to go into engineering. So for me, to get into engineering, you have to have advanced grade 12 advanced functions, calculus, physics, and also chemistry. and then the rest can just be like any elective course that you take. So for me, I went to a Catholic school, St. John Paul Catholic Secondary School. So you take religion essentially all 4 years. So religion, I would say like it's not too much of a hard course. I would say it's more like a grade booster. So you can add that into your top 6 as well to give you a boost in grades. So depending on the universities you're applying for, some of them they heavily look into your extracurriculars as well. So always stay involved at school, join as many councils, join as many clubs, sports, and definitely do more volunteering outside of school and just get engaged in the community, because definitely that's going to help your chances of getting into university. Because some of the universities, they don't just care if you're like the one person who just has a 95 and all you weren't involved in any extracurricular clubs. They would rather pick someone who had like a top 6 average of an 80 or an 85 who's heavily involved. That shows that you're more passionate with stuff outside of school and you're more likely to succeed. So I'll probably like to end off with like a good quote. So the quote that I live by, especially throughout when I was in elementary school and high school, is tough times never last, but tough people do. So essentially what this quote means is throughout your elementary school years, even high school, you're going to deal with a lot of obstacles, a lot of challenges. That can be not making it to a club, not making it to a sports team, or even doing poorly on a test. So what you should do essentially is not give up. Just make sure you work harder and try to improve yourself, because these experiences that you build up upon will essentially help you in the future. I mean, for me, one experiences I had back in elementary school, so I was heavily involved in track. So my goal actually was to finish. I wanted to finish. I made it to the city finals, but I wanted to finish in the top 3. So what I ended up doing is after school, I'll just talk with my track coach and everything. I'll practice, put in the work. Every day, I'll just keep training, put in the work. And finally, in grade 6, grade 7, that paid off, where I was able to get a top 3 finish. So essentially, anything is possible as long as you put your mind to it and just work hard. And literally, the sky's the limit for you guys. So that's all I got for today. And good luck to all you guys on your journey, okay?
Thank you so much, Myron, for a very motivational, sharing of your experiences. Next up, we'd like to call Matusha Gauri-Paulin. We'll talk about course selection, balancing academics, extracurriculars, as well as sharing her insights from middle school to high school.
Thank you, Shankar. So my name is Mathusha Gauri-Paulin. So I am soon to be a chartered professional accountant, so a CPA. I work as a senior accountant in one of the largest accounting firms in Durham right now. So what I wanted to first talk about some key pointers is regarding course selections and academics. So with course selections, we spoke about the mandatory courses that you'll take as well as your electives. So with your electives, I know we have our arts, we have our gym, but we also have the option to keep doing some sciences, maths. So when you are selecting those electives, make sure you're selecting it for yourself. Your parents might tell you, oh, keep doing science, keep doing math, but do it if you really, really want to do it, because you want to have fun with it too. Like high school is not just about full on 100% have to be so into the academics. It's also about learning life skills. It's about learning new things, getting more exposure. So if you want to take gym classes, if you want to take arts like band and music, definitely do that so that you have that exposure. And then with academics, I think the main thing with that, it has to do with how you study, so your studying skills, as well as how you take notes. So with studying skills, people learn very differently, right? Like the way that I learn is different from the way that you learn. People learn visually, verbally, or in written ways. So if your teacher is teaching you in a way that you're not learning it as much. So for example, one of my friends, she's a visual learner, whereas a teacher was just talking. So nothing was registering anything to her. And she took the time to go to her teacher and let the teacher know that, I'm not understanding anything that you're saying. You talking to me verbally doesn't help me learn. So what the teacher did afterwards is the teacher understood what the student was saying, and she started to bring in like slide decks, like presentations. That made her learn, and she's actually very successful till this day. And but again, it comes from you. If you're unable to communicate that, then the teachers won't know. So one thing I can really recommend is make sure you speak up for yourself, speak up for your peers, speak up for your friends, because teachers won't know until you actually speak up. So that's one recommendation. Also, when it comes to course selections and just the high school experience too, make sure you're taking things for yourself, not just because your friend is doing it, right? So if your friend wants to take many arts courses and not as much business, but then you want to take something else, do that. Like, don't do it just because your friend is taking those courses. And sometimes if you do take similar courses as your friends, you have a chance of being in the same class, but it's not 100%, right? So just make sure you're doing it for yourself. But overall, my high school experience was the best 4 years of my life. I wish I can go back and relive those 4 years, because that's where I would honestly say my high school experience was way better than my university experience. Truthfully, like, people say, oh, your university experience, that's where you live your best life, that's where you meet people. But it honestly starts with high school. Because if you don't learn those behavioral skills early, you're gonna struggle in university or college, or just afterwards, even in life. So I would also say make sure you're having fun. I know high school, it's kind of scary too, because you're trying to work towards post-secondary, but make sure that, if your friend's having a party, go to the party. Ask your parents, can you go? Like, make sure you go out, connect with people, because you start your network in high school. You even start your network in middle school too, right? At the end of the day, you are building a network for yourself, for your future. So make sure you take all the opportunities, and make sure that you have a good support system. I think the best thing for me personally, the way that I got through just life in general, is having a really good support system, starting with your parents. Like, of course, when you're young, you're gonna have some arguments with your parents. It's natural, it's normal. But parents, I think it's very important for you guys to really understand your children. This is a time period where your children are changing. They're making really hard choices for themselves, so it's not easy for them. So I think my recommendation to parents or anyone that's giving guidance to young people, make sure you guys are listening to them. Listen to what they're saying. Try to understand what they're saying. Don't neglect them. Try not to put your dreams onto them. Let them choose what they want to do in life, right? Because at the end of the day, they're the ones who wants to be happy, right? And if you're trying to put something on them that they don't want to do, they'll never be happy. And I think as parents, the important thing for you is to make sure that your children are happy. So with the kids too, make sure you're communicating that to your parents, because they're not going to know, right? Like, they come from a different generation, so make sure that you're doing your part and explaining that to your parents. So good luck to all of you. I hope that, your high school experience will be good. Take it, run with it, have fun with it. And good luck to you guys. Thank you.
Thank you, Matusha. That was amazing. So everyone, this concludes our first youth workshop. We'd like to thank our trustees, Parthi and Anu, for their support. All our speakers that came out today, Kandipan, Vasuki, Pravina, Kishon, Myron, Matusha. Thank you so much, because you guys all took time out of your busy schedules and came out to provide a lot of knowledge, a lot of tips and tricks and value. So thank you so much.
Just leaving off with our final note, I'm glad that everyone today has shown up, parents and students that's come out for this workshop. We've worked very hard for this because this is our very first one, and we believe that we will continue this ongoing for the next years as well. So we would love your support ongoing with our organization and the workshops that we will be having. But thank you all for taking time out of your busy schedules too. Of course, students trying to sleep in on a Saturday, and you're coming in today, and I'm very appreciative for that as well. So thank you all, and I hope everyone has a great rest of their day.